Hi, this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video or podcast on your favorite platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms. If you go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com, you can find links to the videos or MP3 files, which you can download and enjoy without commercial interruptions. If you're into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If scary stories are your bag, and listening to encounters with cryptids, ghosts, dogmen, and other weird creatures sends a shiver up your spine, then go to supernaturalstorytime.com for links to our weekly podcasts. Noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird can be found at eerie.news or visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at miamighostchronicles.com. Please subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. Just go to mppellicer.com for a link. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi, how's everybody doing? Good, I hope. Everything is good here. Okay. Post 4th of July. And yeah, it's still hot. What can I say? Even though we've gone here in Florida into what they call thunderstorm afternoons. We get a thunderstorm that rolls in here in the afternoons. Believe it or not, and we are more than halfway through the year. The summer solstice, June 21st, is in the rear view, so it's all the way. I'm going to repeat what I said in my last episode. I will be doing the Halloween show, just the Halloween. And everybody thinks, Marlene, Halloween. No. Think about it. August, September, October. 3 months. Believe it or not. 3 months will go by very quickly. And so, yeah, I'm already putting it out there. As a matter of fact, and even now, I mean, at the rate we're going, pretty soon they'll that thing about, how everything is like post Labor Day. A lot of stuff doesn't wait till Labor Day to start happening. As a matter of fact, the other day, what was it? God, I can't remember what store, I got an email. What was it? Oh, Marlene, was it a store? Something about Christmas in July. I was like, no, let's not go there. We're not going there. No. Christmas is in December. I mean, I know what they're trying to do, but yeah, no. Let me enjoy my summer. Let me enjoy all that. I don't even want to think about, because guess what comes after Christmas is a new year. It's like another year. So yeah, it's one of those things that, again, and I've made mention, when you're a kid, a year was like, man, that's forever. A year? Whoa, eternity. And then I don't know what happens to that, how we start measuring stuff, and all of a sudden it's like a year. Oh, that's, before you know it, it's come and gone. And, it's like, all right, another year. So yeah, that's why I keep up putting on the brakes about let's not hurry along trying to get to what's coming. It's like, okay, let me get all new agey on you. What is it? It's not the destination, but the journey. One of those things. It's true. It is. Like in live in the now. How's that for new agey? But it is. And some things new age was woo, but other stuff that kind of got it right. As in, yeah, we need to live more in the present and enjoy the present. And yeah, you can think, well, whatever you can, but I think, especially in our hectic lives, because of this, we get caught up multitasking too much, and we're trying to anticipate and do this and do that, and the moment, as in the present day moment, escapes us. Also, I've had people asking me, am I going to do more hypnosis MP3s? Yes, I am. If you can check out my hypnosis-diy.com is my website. I also have a YouTube channel. I have all my MP3s for different areas of hypnosis, no charge. You can listen to them there on YouTube, hypnosis-diy.com. And people have been asking me, like, to do some more recordings, for relaxation. I have different ones for like relationship anxiety, self-confidence, major stuff. I mean, there's how can I say it? You could tailor it to more specific things, but what I have on the channel is more of a broad range that people will will find useful. And I have a couple of recordings that like 3 hours long, like with a, and it's, you could see, yes, that's my latest girl. That's my her name is Dixie, but I call her the white chick or the cigarette girl because she's all white and she's got a little, and of course that's her favorite spot, so that I can get. Yeah, I know. So what can I say? But yeah, and as to the pigeons, I have two. Let me see. Let me see if I can bring them up. Oh, let me see if later on. If not, I'll do it at the end of the show. I'll bring up a picture. I have two chicks. Today is Thursday. They hatched Monday, so I have my two first pigeon chicks. It's really funny. I have two couples. Everybody laid eggs. The other two, nothing happening. These, they hatch like within hours of each other. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. They're really nice. I like I said, I'll try to put up a picture of it because I'm like, yeah, it's like I'm so thrilled. Let me tell you something. It makes you feel good. Like you think, okay, I got to be treating my animal right if they're reproducing. But yeah, this is, and I'm hoping to, like I said, eventually breed some more. So I'm going to enter them in some races across the country. I don't know yet where I'm going to send them to, or I might use them to for breeders for other birds that I might sell or send off to races. But that I'll tell you that much right now. That field you have to think long term because when you raise pigeons, you have to send them months ahead to the loft that's going to sponsor the race, the derby, and they train them for you so that once they get released, they come back to that same spot. They go back but it's months. It takes months for that to happen. They lengthen the how far. And some of these races, the ultimate is 100 miles, 200 miles. That's why they train them like that. So yeah, I have to think far out to see what derbies and where I can send the chicks to because that's it. That's the thing about pigeons. Once they're trained to go to that one location, that's it. You can't retrain them for another race. That's it. You can the most you can do is maybe take them back, and if they did, especially if they did well, you train them. So yeah, I mean, you use them for breeding, especially if they did well. But yeah, that's my adventures in pigeon world. But anyway, let's get on to the good part. And the good part is who is the guest today. This is the first time this gentleman's here on Stories of the Supernatural. His name is Keith Johnson, and he is one of the founders of New England Anomalies Research, or NEAR, which was founded for the purpose of investigating and analyzing phenomena which is suspected to be of paranormal origin. Keith is a former core member of the internationally recognized TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, best known for their work on the SciFi television series Ghost Hunters. They have also appeared together on TV series Paranormal State. Although it cannot always be explained, paranormal phenomena is reported by numerous and credible witnesses, too many to dismiss such unusual occurrences resulting from delusion. It can be the cause of genuine distress on the part of those who experience it. Their endeavor is to provide assistance to those who bring to their attention these occurrences, which may be caused by hauntings and spiritual oppression. However, in their investigations, they first make intent to rule out any possible mundane causes for such phenomena. Help me welcome him. How are you doing today, Keith?
I'm doing well. How are you, Marlene? Thank you so much for having me on.
On the contrary, it's my pleasure. Keith, you've been in this field for a long time.
Yes.
Let me ask you, when was it that you started getting into this field of the paranormal research and demonology?
I started getting into it when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
I delved into it seriously at age 17. That's when I really delved into it seriously, at the age of 17. And that's also when I joined my first paranormal organization, which was based at Rhode Island College, and it was called PIRO, Parapsychological Investigation and Research Organization. So since I've been 17 years old, I'd say I've been committed to it seriously.
What happened? Was it just curiosity or did you have some type of experience?
I really felt being drawn into it. It's sometimes it's a field that finds you. I would say the field of angelology and demonology, that finds you. You don't find it, it finds you.
Yes.
But
Yes, I agree.
yes, and I was very, very curious about it. We grew up in a house, my brother and sister and I grew up in a house that had some paranormal activity in it. And it wasn't constant, but it was there and it let itself be known. We knew there was something there. And that really piqued my brothers and my interest, and my sisters too. And so that was like in our mid teens, we really started getting into it and doing more of the investigation part of it. So that's how I started.
Now, let me ask you, because I know that you're a demonologist, and I'm going to say it because I've been doing paranormal research in the 90s, and you'll have a lot of paranormal researchers which will do paranormal or ghost huntings. But when you mention the D word, they're like, no,
Oh,
no, no, no.
oh
We
yes,
don't want nothing to do with that.
yes,
It
yes,
scares
yes.
them.
I can relate. I can
Uh,
relate to so many things you said. Even Christmas in July, we've had that around here, and it's kind of a
yeah.
retail thing.
Yeah, oh,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, but no, I don't do Christmas in July either.
No, it's like, come on. It's like, let me enjoy my summer. Come on. But yeah, it's everybody. Sometimes the over commercialization is like, oh, please stop, stop.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna get bombarded anyway at the end of the year. But absolutely,
and
um,
we've had contests. Different places around in here in New England have contests for the most garish, worst Christmas sweater you can wear, and that's in July. So
oh my God. Oh no. Oh no.
yes, certain
Oh my. Just
establishments
the thought
do
of it is
that.
like. No, I mean, I've always heard of that ugly Christmas sweater competition, but usually I thought it's around Christmas where everybody's
Right.
like, okay, let's see who can outdo each other, and like
Um,
that's a pretty ugly sweater there. But so you started you went into this in high school, you said? Was
yes,
that that's
yes,
neat.
yes,
And when do you think you had your first, I mean, besides obviously living in a house, that
yes.
you had your first genuine experience that you were like, what is this?
Well, my first genuine experience was when I was 10 years old. And
Okay.
I was actually we didn't think of it as that, but it was a paranormal investigation. I was by myself. My family was waiting outside. We'd just come home from the beach in southern New England and southern Rhode Island. I was in this house, and they wanted to leave. My family was out in the car waiting for me. I went in this abandoned house. I wanted to see it one more time. I went upstairs, and I was drawn to the last room down a hallway, and I went down there. I peeked into it. There's a rocking chair going just wildly
Oh,
by itself. So I looked at her about 1 second before I hightailed it
I
out
was
of
gonna
there.
say they didn't need to
I
wait for
could
you
go
that any longer, right?
right, right. I mean, now that would be what an experience if you had the camera set up and everything. But
Sure.
I was just a 10-year-old by myself, and I did experience it.
But
But
sometimes those are the best experiences. The ones that it's like you're
oh
not
yeah,
really looking for it. They just kind of
yeah.
fall in your lap.
This is true. This is very true. Very true.
Do you think that have you actually been able to see anything? And the reason why I say that is that not everybody can actually see
Hmm.
things. Have you
Right.
seen anything?
I've seen things. I've never yet seen in all my years seen a full-bodied apparition. Now my
Mm-hmm.
brother has. My brother has seen a full-bodied apparition. I
Okay.
have seen a face appearing on somebody else's face. I've
Oh
seen
my
like,
God, I've had that experience too.
have
Yes,
you?
keep going.
Yes, yes. And and some people started saying, once I really started investigating more and more, some people started seeing that happening on my face, and they got very terrified. So I did some serious praying about that, and it stopped. It stopped because that was manifesting, and things sometimes will. We call them hitchhikers, as I'm sure
Hmm.
you've experienced. They'll try to attach
Oh
themselves to you.
yeah, absolutely.
They'll follow you around, and I think anybody who gets into this will experience that sooner or later. It's unavoidable, but you do the best you can, and you try to be positive, and you pray for protection. I
Sure.
always pray for protection, and I wouldn't do it if I wasn't praying for protection.
Oh,
Some people,
absolutely.
yeah, some people, as you know, just want to experience. I don't care what
No.
happens, but I try to use the precautions, and I try to do it safely, not just for me, but for those around me, my family and friends and such.
And, let me tell you something. An experience like that is there's nothing worse than sitting at a sofa and everybody's talking, and then and by the way, it was dusk, it was twilight, but and I wasn't drinking. It was nothing like that. There's
Hmm.
nothing worse than looking at the person next to you and doing like a double take, like what,
Oh,
like
yes.
what? And I did like this, like I didn't want to be like that girl's face was like it was. I didn't. I didn't know whether to like, and I like said, okay, let me look again.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked again, and it was like her face was like, I don't want to say an old woman, but it was just like totally transformed. But she was like, I was like, and then all of a sudden I told my friend she was a smoker,
Mm-hmm.
and her name was Catherine, but everybody would call her Fox. I said, Fox, don't you feel like having a cigarette break? And she's looking at me like, because I was always getting her to try to quit, you know.
Yeah, yes, yes.
She's looking at me. She picked up right away. She goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Come with me. Come with me. We'll talk outside.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told her, I said, hey, this is. I was like, she's like looking at me with his face, and by the way, this was somebody we had just met. In other words, I really didn't know who this person was. I knew
Mm-hmm.
nothing about her.
Yes.
But yeah, that'll wake you up really, right? Like no expectations of that, where somebody says something that you're thinking, oh, this person, something's going on with them. But
Yes.
yes, that's a very unnerving experience when you don't expect it.
Of course. Yeah, it does. It really does take you off guard. So I've learned to expect the unexpected, and every things can be going quietly, nothing happening, but still there's always that anticipation that something could happen when you least expect it.
So how did you go from regular paranormal research or ghost hunting and into the realm of dealing with demons?
My family, my parents they grew us up in a Christian household,
Mm-hmm.
and my brother kind of veered off a bit. He went with the more, I guess, risky stuff and everything early on, but I stayed pretty much with the, trying to do the right thing and play it safely. My brother took the risk, but we always take risks, of course. Just doing this is very, very
Mm-hmm.
risky. But I really felt compelled to help people that are going through this because
Yes.
I knew it was a reality. It's like once you've gone through it, you can't really deny it. You can deny it to yourself all you want, but there's the reality there. And I really wanted to help people. I felt drawn to people. I felt God was leading me to. But then I thought, well, I'm just a teenager. I can't really do this by myself. So I prayed, well, Lord, you're going to have to lead me to some place to be able to do this, because this was before the internet, of course, and people
Yes.
didn't have the attention that it gets now. No, nowhere near that. But my brother and I went to see a lecture given by Ed and Lorraine Warren, and that's what
Okay.
really started us off being able to do this. And that's where we joined our first paranormal group as well, after meeting Ed and Lorraine Warren, because there was a parapsychology club on campus where they were
Okay.
speaking, and they came up and would you speak at one of our presentations? Would you speak at our meetings? And I said, well, we certainly will, because my brother had talked with Ed and Lorraine, and I talked with them afterwards, and they realized that even though we were just teenagers, we had quite a bit of experience in this. And so that's how it started with us at a very, very young age. So I think it was meant to happen.
Right. And I'm sure you've run across cases which start out where I want to say just a dead person, as in human, but that there's
Mhm.
also something darker in the background.
Yes, yes, indeed. And I've always felt that. I've always felt that there was something that was very sinister and lurking in the background that really did not like us, did not like humanity. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, that's biblical teaching as well. I believe there was the dark force as well. And I experienced that early on too. It wasn't the Amityville. It wasn't something like that,
Right.
but enough to know that it was a reality and that it was there, and it was purposely making itself known. Things that would speak to me from outside the window sometimes,
Oh
during
crap. All
of
right.
course, when there's a lot of energy, getting getting comments, not even answers, but comments on recordings we were doing. Not
Okay.
even when we were doing an EVP session, just
Mm-hmm.
getting little voices here and there, and some of them familiar. One of them sounded like an aunt of mine that had passed on many years before I was born. So just these things here and there just made it unmistakable. And
Right.
I also realized early on that there is a lot of deception, just like there are deceptive people.
Oh yeah.
Why should the spirit realm be any different? There's
Wow.
there are, of course, many spirits that to pretend to be something they're not, especially spirits of children.
Oh,
Spirit,
there we go. You ding
yeah,
ding 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 ding. Yes.
yes, exactly. And
Uh-huh.
my brother and I, of course, worked for a number of years at Slater Mill Historic Site in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Okay.
Very haunted place, kind of alive with spirits. And a lot of people believe that they are the spirits of children who died there or worked there. And what better way to gain somebody's trust than to
Exactly.
act like an innocent child? Because when you put that spirit to the test, you find out it's something that it's not what it's saying it was.
I don't know why people have a difficult time, Keith, in believing that either a spirit or a non-human entity, whatever you want to call it, could be so manipulative. And I'm like, of course it can be.
Oh
Of course it
yes,
can be manipulative and pretend it's a child, because what does everybody think when they think it's a kid? Oh my God, no, the little kid. Oh, all your defenses, you come
yeah,
down, you don't feel threatened. Oh, let's
hmm
help the kid out. And it's like, yeah, yeah, they can be very manipulative, including, of
right.
course, lying.
Yes, very true. I'm glad you realized that, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that's the point I do try to get across. And not everybody's receptive to that. They'd like
No,
to. It's very convenient to think that all spirits are just lost and they're in a trying to find their way home and trying to be sent home, and they're wandering spirits. A child that has been there for 150 years looking for
yes,
a family. I mean, if that were real, what the poor child, you know,
right.
that was lost and looking for her or his family. We
That's
had that.
right away.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh my God. They think of their own kids or just children in general, and everybody's like, oh my God,
Yes.
lost kid.
Yes. Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And speaking of the Slater Mill on the campus there was one house, the Sylvanus Brown House, which figures prominently in the history of the Mill era and Samuel Slater. And that's the house that Samuel Slater spent his first night in when he first came to Rhode Island, because he
Hmm.
came from England and he came to New York and was invited to come to Pawtucket, Rhode Island, his first night, because he had all this industrial knowledge from England. They were way ahead of us. So
Right.
somebody comes over with this knowledge, oh, grab a hold of him, don't let him go.
Sure.
So 21-year-old Samuel Slater arrived in Pawtucket, and he spent his first night as the guest of Quaker businessman and industrialist Sylvanus Brown, and spent his first night there. That house extremely haunted because of all the families that lived there.
Okay.
And there was one time, of course, there was for a long time we dressed up in the colonial costume or the mill era costume,
Hmm.
and I was opening the place because we are having school children come in. I was opening it one morning, first thing in the morning. I had my heavy costume boots on, my winter
Okay.
boots. I was walking up the stairs. I happened to be recording because I always like to take a tape recorder with me wherever I went there.
Hmm.
And I played it back. You hear my footsteps going up, and you hear a woman's voice say, "Quiet."
Oh,
So I was quiet. I was polite. I
yeah.
made sure I was not as noisy going, even though there was nobody else in the home with me. I just, no matter what it was, it doesn't hurt to be polite. So I kind of softened my footsteps there.
Isn't that incredible? Quiet.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
when you realize it's not just residual. It's not
right.
playback.
Exactly.
It's interacting with you. It's intelligent. Another time in one of the other buildings there, which was a work building, it's the Wilkinson Mill, where that's where they did most of the machinery. They built the machinery and repaired it, and that was mostly a masculine workforce back then.
Hmm.
And I had a friend, and there was a lot of prejudice back then against the Irish because
Yes. Right.
they'd come and take their jobs for cheaper
Hmm.
wages, and terrible. Even a sign when you first came into Pawtucket, no Irish allowed.
Yep.
Terrible. But but I had a friend of mine there who was purposely dressed as an Irish immigrant.
Oh, yeah.
And see what reaction you get. And I was recording, and he asked. He was doing an EVP session. He asked, "Does my outfit remind you of something?" And it didn't just repeat it. The voice that came out was paraphrasing. Said, "Reminds me." Just agreeing
Mm.
with him. Does my outfit remind you of anything? Reminds me. Like almost
Oh
like he
boy.
resented that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it got something. Yeah, I've told people, sometimes everybody thinks that if you have actually intelligent haunting, that they only react to, let's say, somebody that's sensitive or psychic. I said, not
Oh
really.
yes,
If
right.
you look like either somebody they knew, let's say they're not costume. If you
Hmm.
look like somebody they knew in life, that
Yeah.
person will get reacted to. If let's say that discarnate or whatever you want to call it there is
Mm.
was a military person, and there's somebody in the group that was in, even if they're not dressed in military but has military or something about them, they react to, because in other words it's like the memories that
Hmm.
they still have this connection to. Either you remind them of somebody they loved, somebody they knew, there's something about you, and that it's not always the psychic person in the group that will
Hmm.
have the experience.
That's true, very true, and that's a very good point you bring up. It's not always somebody who's is open or sensitive. That it could be anybody. It could
Yes,
anybody could have an
yes.
experience. And it's interesting that back many years ago, uh, kind of significant to this day, because today is historically, of course, most of us, because of the musical now, are familiar with Alexander Hamilton, first
Mm-hmm.
Secretary of the Treasury. And
Absolutely.
yeah, today is the day that he was in his fateful duel with Vice President Aaron Burr. And of
Yes.
course, Hamilton was fatally wounded, and he died the next day at 2 p.m. In agony. And very, very sad. His last words were to his wife, Eliza. He looked at her and said, "My beloved wife." And I was always fascinated with Hamilton, even before he was popular because of the music.
Well,
I
you
was
know that his son, Philip,
yes,
died at that same spot 3 years
correct,
before.
correct. Weehawken Heights, New Jersey. Right, right. He had died
Yes.
at age 19, defending
Yeah,
his.
very young. That was like his firstborn. And they said that he never like got over the death of this. Well, this was his firstborn son. And I
Yeah.
believe they had another child in those 3 years,
Mm-hmm,
which they named Philip in memory. But
mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, can you imagine 3 years later? Here he is. He gets killed
Oh yes,
in a duel.
that is so sad. And Philip's younger sister never recovered from that. She went insane, and she never.
Really?
Yeah, she regressed because of the shock of that, and she'd always ask, "When's he coming home?" She never accepted that. When's Philip coming home? When's Philip coming? For the rest of her life, she asked, "When's my brother coming home?"
Wow.
And
Well, the guy that killed Philip, he was a young guy in his 20s. He only lived like three couple of years more, and he died of tuberculosis in his
wow.
20s also. I mean, he was just a little bit older,
Mm.
and I'm not sure what it, because sometimes you think of the reason they would duel, and it's like, are you kidding me?
Yes.
Like very like, and he died like a few years later. But of course, unlike what happened with Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr,
Yes.
he got in hot water, even though it was a duel.
Yes. Yes. He never lived that down.
No, 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 no,
No.
no.
He never regained his political career after that. He had a successful law practice, but he never could be in regained his political career after that duel. It followed him the rest of his life.
Right.
And,
Plus, afterwards, where he was accused of trying to take down the American, well, what was it? Conspiracy, I think it was, for the Louisiana Purchase, and
oh yes, yes, and
and it was like,
get,
okay,
trying to get
talk
New
about,
York seed from the Union. That'll kind of get you in hot water too.
yeah. That I think he had to like they I think somebody called in a few favors for him not to get prosecuted, but he had to leave to Europe for a few years.
Yes, 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 he did. He did indeed, and he's a ghostly kind of person himself. There, it's like his his wife. He's in love with this woman for many years, and they married for a little while, and then when I guess he's about 80 years old, he's cheating on her, so she left him. But yeah,
Well,
her
no, he married Madame Jumel,
yes,
the
Madame
owner
Jumel.
of the Jumel Mansion, which has got a
Right.
history of being haunted.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. And she came from right around here, Providence,
Really?
Betsy. Her maiden name
Betsy
is Betsy.
Brown.
Betsy
Yes.
Brown. Yes, and she came from right around here, and amazing how these things tie together. But
Yes, yes. It's like, yeah, like like what was it, 7 degrees of separation, but in some
yeah,
cases like 1 or 2 degrees of separation.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was so.
She had a very interesting life, by the way, that lady.
Oh yes, yes, Madame Jumel. Yes, very interesting. No
I
wonder people still think that she her essence is still there in that mansion.
Right, 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 right. Well,
Yeah.
they I think it's like one of the it's like the historic homes like from revolutionary times. I think it's one of the few houses that's still left
Yes.
standing if I'm correct, right?
Yes. 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 It is still standing. It is still standing. And I used to do when I was very young. I was still a teenager. I did a reenactment of Alexander Hamilton. I used to dress
Yeah.
up like him, and I really had the long hair back then, so I could put it in a ponytail.
Yes, yes.
And I came in. I came to a Halloween party at Rhode Island College as Alexander Hamilton once, and people, oh wow, wow, great, great outfit. And
Uh-huh.
one woman came up to a young woman's teenager. She came up and started berating me. She said, "I know you're pretending to be someone, but you're really him. I know
What?
you're him." And I said, "Well, thank you for the compliment." She said, no, no, you're pretending. I know you're the real person. And she started screaming. She started crying. So
And you're like, well, how many drinks have you had already?
I don't know what she was, how many drinks
Let
she'd
me
had,
tell you,
probably, but I did leave there pretty fast.
I'm sure. But yeah, they the you know, the as a matter of fact, there was another mystery involved with Aaron Burr's daughter, Theodosia Burr, that she went
Yes,
missing, and
yes,
they never really knew for sure what
yes.
became of her. She was sailing from South Carolina up there to New York to be with her dad.
Yes, all sorts of theories that she was
Oh yeah.
by pirates and such like that. But I mean, her
Mm-hmm.
ship was lost at sea tragically, and Theodosia, her body was never recovered.
Right.
It's interesting how he doted upon her. Aaron Burr doted upon her that she is. He was boasting, "My daughter is just as capable and intelligent as any man, and I will prove it. I will prove it. I will educate her. I will prove she's intelligent or more intelligent than any man alive." And he gave her a great education. She was quite a woman, and she did. She was incredibly intelligent, extremely accomplished, but she died young, tragically.
Right. Well, the you know that prior, because you know there was a rumor, and I've been reading, and of course, like geez, that took place. What? How many? That one of the real reasons everybody thinks that they had that duel because politically they were bumping heads,
Yes.
you know. But supposedly they say that because you would think, okay, you're gonna duel over this, like
Mhm.
that supposedly that
The
the
insult.
he had made a comment
Yeah.
about an inappropriate relationship as an incest between
Yes. Between.
Theodosia and Aaron Burr.
Yes.
That was the real reason why they ended up in the
Hmm.
duel. All
Yes. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I have heard that.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that, and could be true. I mean, he
Yeah.
could have made that accusation, no sin, but
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that certainly would spark a duel.
Yeah, because they had, as a matter of fact, there were, they were attorneys and everything. But they were bumping heads politically and just personally even before that is what I'm saying. And all of a sudden the duel, but that thing about him saying something, I could see, wow, this could bring about a duel,
Yes. Hmm.
like the thing about your honor, things that men back then would be like, we're gonna meet me under the at 6 a.m. under the oak or whatever,
Right.
things having
Exactly.
to do with your honor being like, put down somehow. But yeah, it's like we'll never know though.
Right.
Let me ask you, when we were talking about it, when was the first time, Keith, that you went on an investigation that you realized, okay, there's something either here non-human or malevolent,
Mhm.
something beyond just a regular ghost investigation of a dead, when I mean a ghost, like a human soul or human spirit?
That was when I was 18 years old. I was
Okay.
18 years old, and again, there was no internet, so I thought I'd try something. I designed an ad, put it in the paper that we do investigations of things unexplained, free of charge. I thought it
Okay.
would just be laughed at, but a woman in northern Rhode Island, in Burrville, the Harrisville section of Burrville, found my ad, and she called us 3 weeks later. Would you
Uh,
please? I've moved into 2 years before I've moved into an 18th century home.
yes.
We've had paranormal activity. It's becoming very dangerous, and my family is threatened. Would you please come visit us or meet with me? So we did, and we talked with her, and she was very, very beautiful, beautiful woman, but you could tell that she was much too thin. She was
Mm-hmm.
suffering from lack of sleep. She was
Okay.
trembling. Something had happened to her. So we said, we certainly will come to your house. And we did come to her house that Saturday. And interestingly, um, she had five daughters of various ages. And
Okay.
they, my brother and Donna, who was the chairperson of Pyro, uh, stayed in the house talking with her. And the girls, because I had long hair, they took a liking to me. They grabbed me by the wrist and they gave me the tour of the grounds. And then they took me upstairs and they showed me the room they were most scared in. They were very,
Okay.
very frightened. Now, in this room, it was August and it was a lot of humidity. And this was
Mm-hmm.
very, very old wood. It was a 17th century house. And actually 18th century house. It was an 18th century house in New England, very, very old wood. And there was a window that couldn't be closed because the wood had swelled so much. The
Okay.
father even tried hammering it shut. It just wouldn't shut. So they left it open. And I started feeling this really uneasy feeling that I wasn't alone in there. I really knew that was something that was not holy, very unholy in there. The girls
Okay.
were telling me how afraid they were, and I asked them, "Do you have any religious beliefs?" They said, "Oh yes, we're Catholic." And I said, "Well, when you're afraid, try calling upon the name of Jesus." As soon as I said the name of Jesus, the atmosphere just changed, and that
Okay.
window came slamming down.
Oh boy.
Oh, it practically shook the room. It came down with such force just immediately.
Did that clear the room? Because I imagine those girls must have wigged out.
Well, one of them, they were huddled together, and one of them, her head suddenly whipped to the side. She started screaming, "Something slapped me! Something slapped me!" And it was on the left
What?
side of her head, which I find very significant because
Uh-huh.
the demonic tends to do counterclockwise.
Right.
So it came after her counterclockwise, slapped her on the left side of her head. She's screaming and crying. They're all screaming and shaking. And it was a very frightening situation, but I got very angry. I got very, very angry that these children were being picked on. So
Okay.
I called upon the name of Jesus twice more, telling them not to be afraid. Suddenly it left the room. It left the room. And
Okay.
they all looked up and said, "It's gone." I felt it. The atmosphere changed to normal. They looked up and said, "It's gone. It's gone." And we all came downstairs and they were pigpiling me and hugging me and everything like that. And they told their mother what happened. Now their mother's name was Mrs. Carolyn Perrin, and that case became known as the Conjuring.
I was gonna say, wait a minute. I know that name.
Yes, yes, Carolyn Perrin. Yeah, that became known as the Conjuring. God rest her soul. We just lost her a few weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I knew her for many, many years, and I was good friends with her daughter Andrea, the eldest
Mm.
of five daughters, and we were friends with Ed and Lorraine Warren because
Mm-hmm.
Pyro, the chairperson Donna of Pyro, had called them in to lecture at Rhode Island College, and that's how they came to Rhode Island College. And so Donna called them after Carolyn received a terrible fright there of a spirit with a crooked neck, as if its neck was broken.
Okay.
A woman, like at just about at sunrise, she smelled rotted flesh. She looked around
Oh,
in her
not good.
bedroom. Yeah, not at all, not at all. And there's I don't know if you call it a woman. It's a monstrosity, a little tiny figure of a female with its head cocked to one side, hanging on the shoulder as if the neck had just been snapped, and
Okay.
face like a corpse, just like a corpse, and
Mm-hmm.
just horrible looking, and started saying a terrible chant. I'll drive you mad with fiery brooms. I'll drive you mad with death and gloom. I'll drive you out. 'Twill be too late. You'll be dead. And so after that, Carolyn was understandably badly, badly traumatized and frightened.
This was, let me ask you, everything started once they moved there. Prior to this, they had not had
Yeah.
any type of experience. So everything was tied to that location.
Yes. Yeah. And they just happened to move in, and something about being like they were a young couple, Roger and
Mm-hmm.
Carolyn Perrin, and they had 5 daughters of various ages. Something about them moving in. And they were also the first that were not of the bloodline that had lived in that house. The Arnold family, it's the Arnolds and the Richardsons that were related. And all that bloodline had lived in that family prior to them moving in.
And I guess my question is, did they ever get a chance to ask the prior occupants?
They
Had
they did ask the prior occupant who had sold them the house.
Okay.
Well, they really didn't experience anything at first till the day they came there. The day they were moving in, these daughters started seeing spirits right away. They saw a young man in 19th century clothing standing against the doorway, and one of them, the daughters came up and said hi, and he didn't say anything. So, and
Right.
then he
She's
vanished.
thinking, in other words, it was solid enough that she was
Oh
thinking it was
yeah,
a real
they
person.
thought it
Okay.
was just somebody, a guest dressed in funny clothing. That's
Okay.
how solid and real it was. They experienced it right away. And the one thing that Earl Kenyon, or the owner who sold him the house, he did not go into spirits very much, but he did tell Roger one thing. They went out for a walk one snowy day as the family was moving in, and he said, "Raj, do yourself and your family a favor. Keep the lights on all night.
Oh my God.
You just don't keep the lights up. Keep the lights on all night." And I don't know what they did when there was a power failure, but they said told them keep the
Well,
lights.
yeah, but that tells you something had been going on and they were aware of
Right,
it because you don't say that to
right,
new owners
yeah,
just for like, yeah, yeah. In other words, yeah, they
yeah.
probably, and at the end, and the reason why I'm saying is that, mostly I know that Hollywood, does things with, that it's not historically accurate. Was it, was the source of the haunting somebody that had lived there, or what was the actual source of that?
My personal opinion, it was nobody that lived there. Now that's my feeling.
Right.
My feeling was that there were outbuildings before that house was built in 1736.
There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that I think it was on the grounds before then. I
Okay.
think there was the Native Americans, the Nipmuc tribe lived there. I
Hmm.
think they dealt with it too. I think they had to deal with it. Um,
So you're thinking this predates even
yeah,
colonization, you think?
I think so. That
All
that is
right.
my personal opinion, because it's not just that house. That's the house that became famous, but
Right.
the whole area has problems such as this. The whole area,
Oh,
and it's interesting that the first owner, Dexter Richardson of the what is now known as the Conjuring House, the Round Top Roadhouse in Harris, Rhode Island, his bride was a squaw from the Nipmuc tribe,
okay.
and we don't know what her real name was. She had to take on the Christian name of Mary,
Mm-hmm.
just like Pocahontas had to take on the Christian name of Princess Rebecca.
Right.
She had to get married. She had to Dexter Richardson. Uh, this Indian squaw had to take on the name of Mary, so that's
Right.
what she was known as. History doesn't record her real name, and I don't know. There's no record of what they may have experienced, but I think the house always had that. I think the property has that tainted aspect to it, and I think it always will.
That's
I,
very interesting. And as to that thing that woman that she saw with the crooked neck, like basically what you're describing is what, when somebody gets hung,
yeah,
not by strangulation, by the neck snapping.
yes.
Was there any record of anybody being hung like that?
I don't think historically, and some
Yeah,
people might disagree, but what we found historically, there's no record of somebody being hung in that
which
house.
doesn't mean anything. That could have happened in
Okay, yeah, they certainly. One of the neighbors did. One of the neighbors hanged herself by a thin cord.
really
Yeah,
interesting.
and but of course, the bad rap was given to Bathsheba Sherman.
Yes.
Of course, I don't know how that rumor about her started, but when we first visited there back in the early 1970s, the children took us to visit the cemetery where she's buried, the Riverside Cemetery nearby.
Uh-huh.
Her stone was already broken in half. It was already vandalized.
And what were the years that she was there?
She
Like,
didn't actually live in the house.
okay.
Bathsheba Sherman did not actually live in the house. She lived in a farmstead very nearby. And she was
Mm-hmm.
her married name was Sherman, and she was a Thayer. Her maiden name was Thayer. And
Okay.
if you look at her history, she had a very unremarkable life. She was rather, they had a successful farm. She and her husband, Judson, had a successful farm. They weren't wealthy, but they were very well off as
Okay.
far as their farm goes. Their needs were met. And she was an upstanding church woman. She was given a wonderful funeral service, a Christian burial in that cemetery. And you don't usually do that with a satanic witch.
I
And
was gonna say, so what happened? How did she end up taking the fall for that? I mean,
I don't know how that started, how that rumor started. There's of course, it's Carolyn said that was in the Black Book of Harrisville, but there's no mention of that in the Black Book. So she must have gotten. I think Carolyn did get that bit of research from local people who told her the
okay.
rumor, because part of her research, she went to the town hall, local library, but she also went to neighbors. She went to a local coffee shop in
Okay.
Japan, and people would tell her stories there, and she wrote that down meticulously. So I think that's
Okay.
the, yes. I don't know how the original rumor started, but of course, when the movie The Conjuring came out, that solidified Bathsheba's reputation. I mean, she died in 1885, age 73, and
Okay.
again given a Christian burial, and nothing remarkable about her.
How long did the family live there?
The parents lived there about 10 years, almost
Okay.
10 years. Yeah, they moved out in early 1980. They Carolyn was suffering in health, and she told her husband Roger, "I love this house, but if I stay here another winter, I won't survive." And
Because I
they
was
did.
gonna say it almost always looks like she was the target
She
person.
was she was the target. She was the target. And interestingly, and Lorraine Warren, of course, in the movie, it ends with
Hmm.
an impromptu exorcism performed
Right.
by Ed Warren because he can't get church help in time. What
Right.
really happened is they arranged for a seance uh,
Okay.
to contact whatever evil spirit was there, be it Bathsheba or whoever. And they put her in the center of the room. There was Ed and Lorraine, and Lorraine had brought a psychic friend with her who conducted the seance. There was a priest there, a young priest. In case anything happened, he would take care of things, and
Okay.
at least two reporters to record any phenomena that would happen. Well, they started the seance, and meanwhile, the daughters who were upstairs in bed, um, Andrea and one of her younger sisters crept down and watched this whole thing through the
Okay.
crack in the door, the open door. And the seance started. Suddenly, Carolyn bent over into an impossible position like a contortionist and started
Wow.
just growling and talking in a guttural. It didn't even sound like a known language, just started mumbling and growling in this deep, husky voice. And she then she let out this scream and was just jettisoned out of that chair across the room,
Wow.
hit her head against the wall, and just collapsed. And for all intents and purposes, was dead. And the young priest is, "What do I do? What do I do?" You
I
know, I
was
got,
gonna say, I imagine everybody was like, "What?"
yeah. What do we do? What do we do? You know, then everybody was, nobody knew what was going to happen next. And Roger went to grab his wife, and fearful for her life, Ed stood in his way. Big mistake, you know. Said you shouldn't touch the possessed right now. And there was a scuffle, and Roger bodily threw Ed out of the house.
Okay.
And Ed was a big guy. He was a pretty big guy. Roger just wrestled with
Keep
him and
toe.
just threw him out of the house. Said, "Don't come back, don't come back." And Carolyn did recover, but that affected her for the rest of her life. That really did.
And the reason why I asked that, even though, because you hear you're saying, we always hear about poltergeist activity around, youngsters, and I'm thinking, okay, you've got five girls in the house,
Mhm.
but then you're telling me the mom is the one that ended up being the target.
Yes, yes, she was the target.
Do you
And
think that that them having all the daughters, as in, I don't know, but I don't know what their ages were, or was providing any type of like telekinetic energy for this to like manifest the way it did?
I think so. The youngest daughter at the time was 5 years old, and
Okay.
the oldest was Andrea, and she was about not quite 15 years old at the
Right.
time.
Yeah, that's the right age.
Yeah, so all these different ages and all these hormones and energy,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
was telekinetic energy that really, really stirred things up quite a bit there.
I'm
Yeah,
surprised they lasted 10 years,
I
honestly.
know. It's like it wasn't constant, and I think that's the only way they could, because they did have a lot of happy memories there. It wasn't all
Okay.
terrible. It wasn't constant. They did have some wonderful family times and holidays together, and very, very loving family. And but that 10 years was all they could take there, and all Carolyn could take. And finally they moved out, and she moved back to Georgia, and her and Roger did eventually split up. But that affected Carolyn for the rest of her life. Always
I
very
can I can
sweet lady.
imagine.
Yeah, sweet lady, very, very sweet lady. And like I said, we lost her just under a month ago. So
Oh, okay. This is very recent then.
yes, yes,
And
very.
then let me ask you something. Post leaving the house, did she ever have any more experiences?
Yes, yes, she did. That it seemed to follow her. She
Okay.
would get things that would happen, very bizarre accidents, and she felt something was not right there. Something would always be with her.
Mm-hmm.
Very bizarre, like she terrible fall down the stairs, and
Okay.
felt she was pushed, and she broke her hip, and it just a refrigerator just almost fell on top of her once, and
What?
just one thing after another. Things would just fly at her sometimes.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
Yeah, she'd have
that
some
take,
peaceful things, and once in a while she'd get pushed or feel something. Oh, there it is, there it is, there she is. She referred to it in the female gender.
okay, I
There
was gonna
she is.
ask you, she's referring to it as a female
Yeah,
context. Okay.
yes, there she is, there she is. And
And did they ever do an official exorcism on her or no? Or did they just leave
no,
it at,
no,
oh,
they never did an official exorcism on her, or a deliverance,
right.
which
Either one, yeah.
yeah, and which I think she should have had. Maybe not
Yeah.
exorcism, but a deliverance to rid whatever attachment was there, because she obviously did have an attachment. And
Sure.
Andrea was constantly followed. She
Yes.
still is to this day.
But
So
does she think it's something separate from what was with her mom or what?
there's quite a few things that she believes follows her, and she anything from extraterrestrial to spirits that are generational, that have followed her, and so she's kind of a magnet for that. So
Let me tell you something. That
yeah,
that that word that you just used right there, generational. I
yes,
want to say, I think there's something there to that. Whether it was a combination of things of generational
yes,
and then moving to a place that had something going on, and then there you go and you've got like TNT kind of thing.
oh yes, yes. And it's interesting. It was quite a few years later, when I was a member of TAPS, that we actually found ourselves in a very similar situation to the Perrins. We had a call from Skohegan, Maine, of a family that
Okay.
was in distress. They lived at a night. This was a little newer. It was a 19th century farmhouse, but still very old. 26 room house that had been added on to, and they were renting it, but they were experiencing some really negative activity there. So we, several of us from TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, Jason was driving. We drove up there on a Saturday, and then the snowstorm started, and it was like so treacherous. And hours, we saw two SUVs on the side of the road that had tipped over exactly like ours.
Wow.
We did, thank God, we made it there in one piece. And once we were there, we were snowed in overnight anyway. So we were there for
Okay.
the night. Um, but we did conduct a thorough 2 evening investigation there. And actually, we were joined by author Jodi Picoult,
Okay.
and she was doing research on her for her novel Second Glance. And the novel hadn't been completed yet, so she wanted hands-on experience, and she did get it. She did get it. We spent the first night investigating. Interesting EVP. We did get, at least I captured a lot of EVP there. One of the girls asked, Jason Hawes, our founder, asked, why would there be the spirit of an Indian here? Because they saw an Indian there. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, there could be all reasons why human spirits are here. And I played my recording back, and I hear a voice saying, I know why. Miracle.
Really? What?
And that's actually what it said. And that's actually biblical, the way it worded that. It said, but I know why. Miracle. And that's what it
Interesting.
said.
And was the family in the living in the house, or did they leave for while you
No,
the
they
time
were
that
in
you were
the
there?
house with us. They were in the house through it all. And then about 2 o'clock in the morning, we heard a bang upstairs. And we were downstairs talking. We heard a bang upstairs. We came running up, and there was nobody in the room. I stayed down with the family. Jason and a couple of others went running upstairs. They found the door, the room where the door had slammed, but there was nobody in it. No trace of anything that would have caused that noise. And
Okay.
so, fortunately, one of our members, good friend of mine, Rich Einig, he had his camcorder set up there and just filming in the room. So they came downstairs. Then, of course, we tried to sleep in for a while after that.
Mm-hmm.
And late the next afternoon, we're preparing for our big deliverance of the next. That night was going to be the cleansing, which I
Okay.
was going to lead, being the company demonologist, so to speak. And we played his recording back. Jason said, "Anybody remember what time that was? We heard the slam." And I said, "Yes." I looked at the clock. It was around 2 o'clock. And so we fast forwarded to 2 a.m. and you just see the night shot in the room, and all of a sudden we heard the slam, and no
Okay.
door slammed. It was just like a projected sound.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and on the recording, it sounded more like a locker slam, metallic, although it sounded like wood when we
Okay.
heard it. And
Interesting.
then you hear them. This is a wonderful capture. You hear their footsteps coming upstairs, and a little girl's voice says, "They're coming."
Oh boy. Oh,
And then just before they enter the room, a man's voice says, "They're here."
yeah.
I mean,
Okay. So you guys
what
are being
a
watched.
capture! What a capture! And you see them walk
Yes.
around, and they didn't see anything. Then they leave, and a bunch of orbs started shooting around. Now, I don't know if that was dust caused by people moving or if it was psychic energy, but orbs started shooting around. Then they heard like a drumstick really tapping, it's tapping out something like, and
Like a Morse code kind of thing.
kind of, I don't know what kind of a code, if it was a code, I don't know, but it sounded like a code.
What was the origin? Did you guys ever find out what it was?
We think that there was cult activity there. There was some cartoons because people had rented there, so multiple families had lived there. But there was cartoons on the wall, but also some looked like some kind of occult symbols,
Mm-hmm.
and there was some traces of animal cruelty there too.
That's
Uh,
what we're talking here. Then animal sacrifice. We're
Possibly
talking blood rituals. Yeah, something like that.
there was a deer head, desiccated deer head in the cellar, but
Oh
it wasn't
boy.
mounted. It wasn't mounted or anything. No eyes or anything like that. And it was in January. So Brian Hanwa, my friend Brian, and I were outside
Mm-hmm.
starting the cleansing, and we went outside the grounds. There were chicken coops, but in these chicken coops were freeze dried chickens that had just frozen to death.
Oh my God.
I mean,
Wow.
they weren't completely decayed; they were just like freeze dried. Some of them,
Like they were just left there.
yeah, standing up in the snow, just left there. And so there was some bad mojo there.
Yes, there was.
Yep.
That's something.
Mm-hmm.
People don't even though uh, people don't realize that in a lot of these, and I'm not saying that this is the purpose, because obviously if the chickens were left out there to freeze, people don't realize that in occult rituals, if you're going to use an animal for sacrifice, it's more potent in some belief system of the animal, including some is suffering.
Yes,
All
that
right.
that's terrible though, isn't it?
People don't think, people besides the animal sacrifice, and some, by the way, they do that when there's human sacrifice involved,
Mm-hmm.
which is, what they call the goat without horns, which is another word, code for human sacrifice.
Oh, okay.
But that so you know what, that's the same thing when you get a property that's been rented out, that you get people coming and going, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes things happen there,
Yes,
and you
yes,
never really have a good grasp of who did what while they
true.
were there.
Mm-hmm. That's
And one of the things I was going to ask you about, Keith, because I tell everybody, usually when I've seen something like that, some type of evidence of that, I say you need to look in all the hidden places in that place because chances are they've left something behind.
Oh yeah.
Some type of, if you want to call it a fetish
Mm-hmm.
or something, depends. You got to look. You might find it hidden in the ceiling, in the attic, and behind the closet, behind the water heater. You'd be surprised what you'll find if you've ever had that somebody living there.
Yes. Yeah, it's incredible things you'll find, and
Yes, yes. That it kind of like it's like okay, the only person that's going to leave something like that there
mhm.
is somebody that was an not the occult per se, but dark stuff.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
Hmm.
because
That's
everybody wigs out with the word occult, and that's it's just
right.
darker things.
You're right. And we did wind up doing the cleansing there, and certain time of the night, everything was ready, and we lined up in front of the stairs, and there's the mother of the house with tears in her eyes, and Jody Picoult's with us. She was very, very nervous, but she wanted to go through with this. The mother of the house is standing there with tears in her eyes, so I just gave her wrist a little squeeze, and she gave me a smile. And so we had my Bible with me. We were coming up, starting the cleansing. Jason Hawes turns to everybody and said, "I want somebody in front of Keith and in back of him at all times. This thing
Okay.
strikes out, it's going to be at him. So I want him surrounded."
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I appreciated that. And we went up the hallway, and the most haunted room was what they called the guest room or the guest house. It was a room that had been uh, refurbished for guests staying over. And
Uh-huh.
that seemed to be where the most activity was. So that's one of the places where we concentrated at the end. But
Okay.
as we were going, it's interesting. We heard noises in the different rooms down the hallway, but it was like
Okay.
almost like a sense around at a theater. We'd hear it in one room, then as we came close, it would bounce to the next room, and it was really, really playing a mind trick with us.
How
It's
old was the property? Was it an old property or no?
It was about mid 1800s,
That's old
mid
enough.
late 1800s, yeah. And I'm sure the grounds were very old too before the house was even there because they kept adding on to it. But
Okay.
then
Yes.
we wound up doing the final blessing in downstairs, and I asked for a sign of departure, and sign of departure didn't come right away, but the family were feeling terrible. They were feeling very frightened. They were huddled together downstairs.
Okay.
So I did some further prayers downstairs, and a friend Rich Einig and Andrew Graham members were with me in the kitchen, and the lights were down. There was a parrot cage, like a 200-pound parrot cage there, and
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden it started to vibrate. You
Wow.
could feel it vibrating. You could see it vibrating, and it just started to inch away. Stopped, and that's we took that as our sign of departure.
What was it that they had been experiencing that they ended up calling you
They
guys
had
out?
a hound dog that was constantly barking and howling at something. They
Okay.
pictures would come, family members, they'd come in, the pictures would be upside down, crosses would be turned upside down.
Mm.
They kept seeing spirits, apparitions would appear, spirit of an
Okay.
Indian. There was even now there was a bedpost, and they showed us a picture. We weren't there to see it happen, but they showed us a picture of a toothbrush that had gone right through the bedpost.
What?
Impaled. Yes, it was right through the
You know
bedpost.
how I don't think you could even that's incredible.
That's that's something that would be like tornado force for
I
something.
was gonna say that do you know how much that's wow.
And the son who had he and his girlfriend had a small child, of course, and the child fortunately wasn't there that night. But
Mm-hmm.
he woke up with his back raked, scratches on his back, and just they really felt unwelcome there. It just would not stop banging, and in the middle of the night, knocking on the door. They'd be pounding on the door. 3 pounds, three successive knocks.
Okay.
An insult to the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And it hit the 3 poundings, and it got to the point where they called a priest in, and the
Okay.
priest was very, very nervous, and he wouldn't even go upstairs. He just took his aspergillium, just some holy water, and kind of almost ran out. And
Yeah,
they called him back.
I
We're
bet.
still having problems. You're watching too many movies. He says he wouldn't come back.
Yes, yes, yes. I tell everybody, it's really funny, Keith. And I'm Catholic, by the way, so
Oh,
don't
good.
the Catholics don't get offended. But and I'm gonna say this, and this doesn't only pertain to priests. I'm gonna say this. I've got investigations where I get some version of no, they kind of like poo-pooed me, or they made me think I was going crazy, or they don't want to. I said, I don't think they believe me. I go, no, they do believe you.
Oh,
That's the
yeah.
whole problem. They
Yes.
do
Yeah.
believe you, and they just don't want to go out there and
Yeah.
lose face.
I'm so glad I have somebody like you to explain this to, who has an understanding and has
Yeah,
experience.
they believe you. As a matter of fact, they believe you more. But what are you gonna do if this is supposedly the person you would go to for a spiritual problem,
Oh yes. Well, just
and they're afraid, and then
yeah.
what does that leave you?
I've been working on this case long term now for a couple of years, and this involves a case with a young girl. She's a teenager, and she's special needs and has
Mm-hmm.
epilepsy. This is in Massachusetts. And I've been with the
Okay.
family, working with them for a couple of years now, and she has precognition.
Okay.
It's not all bad. She sees saints, she sees angels, and
Okay.
she sees family members she never met who have passed on years before her that she knows about. One of them, she was asking, why is he bald? Why is he bald? She had no way of knowing that he was under chemotherapy at the time of
Oh, wow.
passing. And
Talk about validating
yes,
something.
right, exactly. So they came to before they contacted my friend Matt Moniz, and then through him they got in touch with me, and they they did come to their priest. They approached their priest,
Mm-hmm.
and he came to their house, and he did a blessing there. Did a very quick blessing, left very hurriedly. For the rest of his time there at the church, he would not talk to them.
That's
And they told me how hurt they were, that you've just been through mass and you're ready
mm-hmm.
to leave. You're at the exit line. You're going to say to the priest. He turns away from you and won't even look at you.
It's like, please don't come and talk to me because I'm
Right.
afraid of what you're gonna ask me.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. He just ignored them and would not even look at them or share a smile with them.
They
It,
just now in May they just finished having the that they restarted. I think it was in 2017 that they started in the Vatican these
Mhm.
official exorcism. It's like a week long classes,
Yes.
and I think in May was the last one, and they had a lot of interesting topics. And basically, what they're saying is that there's for all the priests that are tapped to become exorcists,
Yes.
there's a bunch of them that is like, no, no,
Oh yeah. Right.
I'm not doing that. That part,
Well,
no.
I found most of them
Yeah.
that I have dealt with.
They don't even want to be
Do it.
trained as, in other words, to be known.
Right.
And from what I understand, there's even some priests who are exorcists, but they're not. They don't let their names be put out as exorcists for the archdiocese that they're at
Right.
because
Right.
it's such a weird kind of dynamic. But
Yes.
yeah, they've
Yeah.
been nobody. There's priests. Not well, there is a shortage of priests. Period. But the ones that do make it through seminary, they don't want to go into that field at all.
Hmm. Yeah, this is true. In fact, I've recently been reunited with a friend of mine, Father Bob Bailey, and
Okay. Yes, I
he
know. I remember
yeah,
seeing him.
right. He did a stint on Paranormal State, the TV show.
Yes. Yes.
But how he became started in the deliverance ministry. He's not an exorcist, but he does do deliverance, and he deals with demonic
Mm-hmm.
cases. He's one of the few that will deal with demonic
Okay.
cases. And although I believe every Christian clergy member has potential to be an exorcist. Not all of them should, but I believe, my personal
Right.
belief. But he first found out about me, and because of Slater Mill. I worked at Slater Mill, and one of his parishioners worked at Slater Mill and said, "Please put me in touch with Keith Johnson." And I've
Okay.
been a priest for years. I've been through seminary, but they never covered this very in depth. I want to find out about this, and I want to work with this. So I believe that it was divine providence that he was sent to Sandra and I, and
Mm-hmm.
we arranged for him to do his first deliverance session, of a demonized person. And
Okay.
now, it wasn't full exorcism, because obviously you need church permission for that. but he did his first delivery session in his first demonically infested house.
Okay.
We
But what
took,
was this person? This person was what? Obsessed, oppressed? What were they? What stage were
yes, he
they
had
at?
an attachment that was not leaving him alone,
Okay.
constantly talking to him, constantly moving
Okay. Okay.
around, making his life miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Just when you think you're alone, you have some peace that's going to start up again, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then another house, the family had real bad personal problems too.
Okay. Yes.
But they were receiving a lot of paranormal activity too, and people's personalities were changing in the house. And so we took Father Bob there as well, and that's how we got started. And we worked with him for quite a while, and now we've been reunited recently, and I'm going to be starting to work together with him again.
Yes. They. You know that, and I was surprised when I found this. And the reason why I say this, and I agree with you though, as far as the ability for deliverance,
Hmm.
whether it's a Catholic priest, but when, the original Roland Doe case that William Peter
Oh yeah,
Blatty
you're right.
based
The
was a
ex.
1949
Yes,
article.
yes.
Well, the family, Roland Doe's family was originally German Lutheran,
Hmm.
and they went to their Lutheran pastor. And I guess he saw some stuff, and he was the one that said, "You need to go see the Catholic
Right,
priest."
right. Fortunately,
They weren't. I
yes.
think the dad was Catholic, but he was like, "I'm not involved." But the mother and the grandmother were German Lutherans,
Hmm.
and they got sent to the Catholic priest by the Lutheran pastor.
Because most of
Uh,
the Protestant denominations do not have that in their liturgy like
right.
they do in Catholicism. They don't have the Ritual Romanum.
Yeah.
So we've actually, and Ed, when I worked with Ed Warren years ago, we were working with an Episcopal priest
Okay.
and doing a cleansing. And the Episcopal priest looked through his liturgy, didn't have anything for exorcism, but he came to the baptism, which is
Mm-hmm.
a form of exorcism.
Yes, it is.
And
That's
yes,
exactly
so
what it is.
a lot of people don't realize that it is a
Mm-hmm.
form of
Yeah.
exorcism. So that's what he used, and it was very successful.
Really interesting. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. I'm so
Yeah.
glad you understand these things and
Oh
you
yeah.
have experience of them because
Yeah. 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 But and don't get me wrong. I know that there's a lot of sometimes people running around with the extra, possession that basically it's a mental health issue,
hmm
you know, especially if they have a flavor of schizophrenia, which is that persecution. They're listening to me, they're looking at
yeah.
me, they're after me.
Hmm.
And part of it sometimes goes in that direction. But there's a lot of people that as a matter of fact, I think sometimes they're afraid to get help because they're afraid of being looked
Yeah,
at as in you're going crazy,
certainly they're afraid
especially when
stigma.
they're going through the stages of attachment, depression, obsession, the, the, or like what you just described, where this person is hearing things,
Hmm.
they've never heard it, or intrusive thoughts, usually not nice ones either.
Right. Well,
Um,
this family with the special needs daughter and granddaughter, it's interesting that she's been getting a lot of help lately, and I've been working with them for a couple of years, and
mm-hmm.
she's very vulnerable. She's
Yes.
special needs, and she has epilepsy, so she's been very victimized, but by spiritual entities. But she has learned to cope quite a bit, and she knows prayers of protection.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's not just it's kind of going towards the other family members now. They're experiencing more activity. I think because she has a greater protection against it, now it's
Mm-hmm.
starting to make itself known to other family members.
I was going to ask you, was she being targeted one because of her being special needs, or is she a psychic medium?
It's along with her epilepsy. I don't know what the connection is, but it does seem because she does have this, this ailment, this,
Mm-hmm.
being special needs. That's what
Yes.
seems to trigger it. That's what's
Okay.
now. I think, of course, we know that these kind of spirits can be very opportunistic.
Of
And,
course.
they live in an older house, and also there's there's a building nearby. I believe it's a pet food shop now, something to do with pet food, but
Okay.
it was originally a retreat for clergy, for Catholic clergy, and
Holy cow.
I think
There
that,
we go.
yeah,
Bingo. Ding,
yeah,
ding, ding,
and
ding, ding, ding.
they didn't make the connection until I said that might have
Oh,
something
there
to
you
do with it.
go. Oh, you know what? Oh, I know. People are going to say, Marlene, you're such a cynic. Let me tell you something. Retreat houses usually meant troubled personnel, whether it's nuns or priests or somebody. They
Hmm.
would send you to the retreat.
Oh
All
yes,
right. As in, sometimes they misbehaved. They were doing something that they shouldn't be doing. This is,
yeah, and it's
the
unfortunate. And there's a conglomeration of spirits there,
and
and
there was spiritual turbulence. Sometimes they themselves had an attachment. There was spiritual turbulence that was walking with them, and sometimes they would be sent on a
right,
retreat, and
yeah,
maybe something just jumped, said, "Oh, let me go visit over there."
yes, yes, and that's exactly. And just because there's a business there now doesn't. I
Oh,
mean, these
shoot!
spirits have a home there, and they're not just going to relinquish it.
Of
They're going
course
to
not. Of course not. I don't
got a
care what you
it's
do
got
to
a
the place.
headquarters there now, like a base there. That's
Let me
where I
tell
think
you.
the spirits came from.
That yes, you're absolutely right. I bet you anything that yes,
Hmm.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. There was and I'll give everybody a for instance. There was a case back in 1961.
Hmm.
This is in McAllen, Texas.
Hmm.
This young, she's a prom queen.
Uh-huh.
She gets murdered. She's found in a canal. All right. Last seen going to church to, she, confession and everything. She
Yeah.
disappears. 2 weeks later, they find her body in the canal. Make a long story short, the one that's they're looking at really hard is a young priest that was in that parish, Sacred Heart Parish. All
Hmm.
right. In the interim, he had already had his finger pointed at him by another girl, another young lady, who said that he had tried to like manhandle her a little bit,
Hmm.
like attacked her.
Yes.
By the time they come around, because things being what they were, they ended up sending him to a retreat in the middle of nowhere. Which, by the way, they say many people never knew that priests
Hmm.
had these retreats that they would send them to,
Yes.
and supposedly they were for alcohol abuse. All the things that normal people go, but you're still a priest.
Hmm.
Alcohol abuse. Um, if they run around with a woman, they break their vow of celibacy, and
Yes.
of course pedophilia
Hmm.
and homosexuality, which back then, of course, wasn't. And do you know that they kept those places secret? Nobody knew that
Wow.
those retreats were there. That, in other words, that this is where they hustled off
Yeah.
the people who had misbehaved. And
Hmm.
I'm sure there was the equivalent. There were there for nuns, but I want to have a. I'm gonna guess that there was probably more problems with priests that
Hmm.
were in hot water, or they had some type of proclivity.
Yes.
And then what they would do is they would supposedly work on them, and then of course ship them off to other parishes. And of course everybody's heard stuff that's happened because you know deeply troubled men were not you know basic
Right.
stopped. How's that?
Right.
But that's when you said that thing about a retreat house. I was like,
Hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah.
retreat's code word for, what can I
Exactly.
say?
Exactly.
And sometimes
Exactly.
I want to say people don't. There's a. Have you ever read the book by Malachi Martin, Hostage to the Devil?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay. Do you know? There was there's like 5 stories in there that he
Yes.
details,
Hmm.
and there was one that basically he talks about some one priest that was actually possessed,
Hmm.
and that another priest, he eventually left, but nobody could believe that this priest went actually was possessed. All right.
Because he was a priest.
Right, right, but it talks because in the stories basically he's talking about different exorcisms
Yes.
through
Yeah. There's the chap.
he changed the
Yeah.
names and everything,
There's
But
Uncle Ponko. Remember Uncle Ponko? That the spirit just harassed this person that
yes,
destroyed
yes.
life very
And they for
quickly.
years, and these people were like, I think there was, of the 5 cases, there was only, everybody kind of, I think there was only one that kind of, but there was one, I can't remember what, God, that it was one of the, and the other priest that knew him, like, looked at him and realized that there's something going on that was
Mhm.
off
Yes.
about this one priest. And everybody thinks, okay, how can a priest become possessed? Because you would think, how does that happen? Wouldn't, but I think sometimes that if they have some type of trouble in their
Mhm.
personal lives, despite
Yeah.
them having been ordained, I think
Hmm.
that kind of still like opens them up, leaves them open
Certainly the
for
ability.
possession or something like that.
Yes.
My
Yes.
point being that even though it's a retreat and holy, and maybe they had religious, whether it was crosses. I mean, was this was it a Catholic retreat house?
Yes.
What you Okay?
Mhm.
Still, that doesn't stop it if you've got something that's with you,
Right.
even though
Right.
you're a priest.
It doesn't at all. And there was this family in Massachusetts. There was a younger priest that was becoming involved and was helping them. And
Okay.
he uh, he heard about me. The family told him I was helping him, and
All right.
at first he was very nervous about that. The title demonologist, and
Sure.
but I mean, I talked to him, and we got we just we got laughing and everything like that. You just very very nice man, and he was very very glad to talk to me. He was an assistant priest there, and he took over the parish. Actually, he was appointed the main priest there.
Okay.
Um, very very young and very outgoing, very personable, and he was from Hawaii. From Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
and something happened. Something strange happened that he was suddenly transferred once he started helping this family and was doing a wonderful job with the family.
Really?
He had tripled the congregation, tripled it. I mean, obviously, he was helping them financially. He was
Right.
extremely popular, and then I guess it took was one person to say something, and he was transferred without explanation. And
Hmm.
he hadn't really wasn't doing anything wrong, but he was suddenly transferred. And I think there were things working behind the scenes there. I think
Okay. All
unseen
right.
elements, that this just happened so suddenly that this just happened. And
That's so interesting.
I know
I
God
know.
took a bad situation and turned it around, so we just
Yes.
pray that this works out for the best.
Sure. Sure. Of course. Yeah. The that's really. So you've been working with this family, what, for a couple of, how long did you say you've been
A
working
couple
with
of
them?
years now, yes,
Okay.
years
Okay.
now, yeah. And because the daughter, it's not just a thing where somebody's going to come in and do a deliverance and everything's going to
Yeah.
be all right, because the daughter is, maturing and experiencing more things, and as she's becoming a young woman, she's
Yes.
more and more successfully dealing with this spiritual aspect. But of course, she'll always be special needs, and
Mm-hmm.
her epilepsy has done damage to her cognitive abilities to a certain extent, and so her brain wasn't able to mature fully. But she, I'm glad she is getting the help she needs, and she's not alone in this. See, that's, as you know, I'm sure you well know, that's the worst aspect of
Yes.
a demonic infestation, is the isolation. Nobody believes you. You're afraid
Yes.
to be ridiculed. There's no place to turn. People will think I'm crazy.
You don't want
So,
to be known as that person. Yeah.
right, exactly. In fact, they were led to somebody that is experiencing some kind of infestation, and just the fact that they talked to her just opened up this woman so much.
Right.
Just opened up the floodgates. She was so felt so blessed that somebody understands and believes what I'm going through. I'm not alone in this anymore. And so I think that family was led to her to encourage her as well.
Okay. And but now you're saying that now it looks like whatever's there is going to
Their
do
the
towards
family
the
Her
family.
family is experiencing more and more phenomena. They're feeling more that they're not alone. they're hearing knockings in the middle. The daughter came down running. The girl's mother came running down the stairs the other night, hearing these knockings and pounding. She thought somebody had fallen, but they hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
They're hearing knockings, and she's seeing things. The girl's mother turned around, and the door's open just a crack. There's an eye looking at her.
Holy crap.
but nobody was there. Nobody was there.
Oh, jeez. All right.
It's interesting because this girl, of course, because of her condition, she does get migraines. She gets severe headaches.
Okay.
And when she gets these headaches, she tends to growl. She grunts. She holds her head, walks around grunting and growling because she's in so much pain.
All right.
The grandmother, her grandmother, who I'm in touch with quite a bit, was when this girl was away at her father's during school vacation, April school vacation.
Mm-hmm.
The grandmother was there alone in the room, and she started hearing her daughter grunting and growling as if she had a headache. But her daughter wasn't there. She was at another house, a neighborhood away. And it was like almost like a residual, but
a mimic.
Yeah, mimic. That's what it was. Exactly, a mimic. Just hear this grunting and growling that her daughter does when holding her head when she's in pain. And she looked up and nobody there.
Yeah, like she knew she wasn't there. I mean, it wasn't like, no. Very interesting.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds like a complex case, Keith.
It is. It is very, very complex. And, I do have some colleagues in the field that are becoming interested in this, and they want to help out too. So
sure.
The main thing is this family's not alone. So many people that go through this are not alone. That's in the Conjuring house. That's the parent family. Before I met them, they were totally alone. And they're afraid of ridicule. And one of the youngest daughter of the 5 daughters, she was just a young innocent girl, and she made the mistake when she was at church. One of the priests said, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And she said, see, they have ghosts here too. So just innocently said that. And the priest talked to the family afterwards, said, maybe you want to find someplace else to go to church and go to school.
What?
Yeah. The priest said that. Maybe you want to go someplace else because your presence is disturbing people. So even the church abandoned them, and just all it took was an innocent little girl to say that. And they found out which house that she lived in. And so maybe you want to go someplace else.
I'd be steamed.
Oh, well, the eldest daughter, Andrea, was steamed. She had a few choice words to say, which were not.
Let me tell you something. One time I had a case where both husband and wife, they were nurses. Like a psychiatric part of the prison.
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay, they were both nurses. By the time they called me into the case, the wife had passed away from cancer.
Mm-hmm.
He tells me they had been going to this parish church for like 20 years, long time. So they start having phenomena in the house. So he goes to see his priest and he goes, look, I don't know what this is. Can you come? And he said the same thing similar. The priest came and did like a real, like how quick can I do a house blessing? The
drive-through version. Yes.
Yeah. Drive-through the house blessing.
Right.
And then he was like, he says something like that. Like he says, I could see that his attitude towards me and his niece or his daughter and his niece that were the ones living with him had changed. And he told us, he says, I was afraid that if I persisted with this, we were going to get looked at because nobody supposedly knew what was going on. Because I've been attending this church for 20 years. And we were all of a sudden going to be looked at as what's wrong with you guys.
Oh, yes.
And he says, that's why I called you guys in, because I tried going the route of asking, and it was like, they're giving me a house blessing, like you're pulling teeth, and it's like not like they didn't know who I was. And I think he was really hurt by that, as far as weird as that sounds, because it's like, okay, you know who I am. I've been coming here for 20 years. I'm not a crazy guy. You know who I am, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
but you're looking at me like, so I think and he says, and I didn't want, like, in other words, I don't want to go, I want to keep going to my church, and I don't want people to look at me
Mm-hmm.
with weird eyes.
Yes.
So he just didn't pursue the thing through the church anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that I personally, from we went there a couple of times, and that I think that he, not him, but I believe there was something non-human that came in there from, probably from where they worked at in the psychiatric prison
Yes.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, something. And I wouldn't be surprised if it might have even had something to do with his wife's death. Right? It
Really.
was like a weird, but it was the very normal family. How can I say this? That same thing. They had lived at the same house for 30 years. You know, they have this job. In other words, very normal. And then all of a sudden, they start having this phenomena. And I personally think that, and again, you could tell that he was like, I want help, but that afraid of getting that stigma,
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, exactly.
you know. And that's the thing that people don't realize, that they have been living here all these years in this house. Nothing had ever happened. And it was like, I want to say the house was built like maybe in the 70s. It
Yes.
wasn't an older house.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no phenomena, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh, and then, I believe one of the, I can't remember, it was his daughter's niece, had seen like the shadow of a man, like
Oh,
looking in through the one of the back windows of the house that looked out in
yeah.
the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
their whole backyard was fenced with like wooden fences,
Yes.
like, and it was gated, in other words. And that scared them, because at the beginning they thought, like some other people, that this is like a real person, but they can't figure out why. And they a couple of times I would see sometimes these shadows move. One shadow, I'm sorry, I'm not
Mhm.
only moving like around through those, like in the backyard. And one of the times I remember they were saying that it was really weird, because that particular window had a lot of shrubbery, like saying
Yes.
it would be impossible for anybody to stand there, because this window, it's got like shrubs there. But they were like, in other words, something that's going through the shrubs, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
can vision.
sometimes, yeah, you have to look also as the source of what people do for a living. How's that?
That's true. Very good example. That's the very, very, very good example. Good example. And we see. I'm sure you've seen examples of angelic activity too around
Yes.
in everyday life. Just today, I was on my way driving through Warwick down Airport Road, and it was in a split second. Somebody cut somebody off, and
All
it was
right.
the person that got cut off, almost a collision. Somebody was making a left turn. They're in a small sports car and it was a convertible, so there could have been a lot of you know damage done there. And the car just turned just right around, just stepped on the brakes, turned right around like this, facing sideways. And the other
Mm-hmm.
car went like that, and you could see that the person, like the driver, was just in shock for a while, but no collision, no collision.
Yes.
It's just, and I could have been involved in it. I was right behind there. I could have been
Right. That you think, oh, this is going to be bad.
right, exactly. I thought it was just prepare for the worst there, and suddenly I didn't even have time to really pray out loud or anything. There was just that split second, and they were facing the other way, but everybody was unharmed. And all I could do was just this: thank God that everybody was safe. It was something that you might take for granted, but to me, it was just totally miraculous how there wasn't
Yes.
even a collision. There wasn't even a
Yes.
collision. Same thing happened to my neighbor across the street, who was a Christian, and he was a couple of years ago. He was driving along, and there was icy roads. He was driving to work, and his pickup truck just went out of control, and it just
Mm-hmm.
started spinning, and it kept
Okay.
spinning around like that, and then suddenly it stopped, and he's facing the other way of traffic, and no collision, just facing the other way. I don't know how on Route 95 in rush
Okay.
hour traffic in the morning.
Yes.
Could not have hit anybody, just spinning around like that. Then he's facing the other way, and he just turned around and righted himself on the right way, and unharmed. And he was giving somebody else a ride to work, and he said to the passenger said to him, "Joe, I want to drive with you from now on. You've got
Yeah,
somebody
I
else."
bet.
Yeah, and he
I
just
mean,
knew it was angelic intervention. He knew the Lord was watching out for him. He just knew there
you
was.
know what? I'm going to ask you, Keith. I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you about this, what you think.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something, and by this, you're going to see where I'm leading with this is that back up to like maybe the early 70s, all
Yes.
the, and I'm going to use movies in Hollywood because I'm sorry, that's for uh, this is, even though I have it on silent, I have a pass through for my family. Anyway,
Oh,
um, up to the early 70s, like, that in the early 70s, we had all these dark movies like The Exorcist and Rosemary's
yes.
Baby and The Omen and all that stuff come out. All
Indeed.
right. All right. Up to that, you remember we would have, all the Hammer films and all
Yes.
these.
Yes. Very much.
But I tell everybody, you know what? All these movies, even Christopher Lee with his bloodshot eyes, whatever.
Right.
At the end, the good guy and God would triumph. The guy with
Yes.
Peter Cushing
Yes.
shows up with a cross,
Yes. Yes.
whatever,
Yes.
whatever the deal was, whatever. And then after those dark movies started coming out,
Mm-hmm.
it almost always subjugated the power of God. In other words, the end of these movies always made it look like evil triumphed.
Yes. Yeah.
And all the movies that came out afterwards, if you look at historically, um, it almost, they minimize the intervention of God
Mm-hmm.
or of good or the religious, aspects. And always like evil is all powerful,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
that kind of deal. And I think that sometimes, that's ingrained in our subconscious mind because, of course, we watch TV and programs and whatever, to where evil, and by this I'm not minimizing, I'm saying is ascendant, and you're like lucky enough if you can get the cross out, and still the devil might go.
Right.
But do you see what I'm saying? Where they've
Yeah.
before that, like I want to say back before the 60s, all the way back, it would all these horror movies, everything, whatever it was, good triumph over evil.
Yes.
And when I mean good as in the good person, if you want to say religious or God or whatever, the religious object. Always, this was what ended the or banished evil. How's that?
Yes.
And do you think that mentality has fed into sometimes people? Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Thinking that evil is omnipotent. How's that?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. Feeling. I think sometimes people do feel that evil is omnipotent, and I'm sure you've dealt with people like that too in different cases I've been on. It's like they're so concentrated on the
Mm-hmm.
evil, on the oppression, that they start thinking it's so much more powerful than the good, when it's not.
Yes.
Just the opposite is true, and that's what
Yes.
I try to get across to people. And when I'm doing a deliverance and I'm doing a house cleansing, I try to like paint a mental picture for them, and I pray that God will send a mighty warrior angel, a holy warrior angel,
Mm-hmm.
wielding a flaming sword of righteousness. I try to paint that mental picture because I believe that's what's there, and
Yes.
that is so much more powerful than. And of course, with provocation, people do provocation. They try to,
Yes.
more younger people when they're first getting into it, they try to do this provocation to get a
Yeah.
reaction from the spirit. I try to tell people, if they could see what they're talking to, they would never do
Oh
it
my
again.
God, you
If they
get
could
it. You
see,
get it, Keith. You get
yeah,
it. Yeah.
if they could
Yeah.
only see what they're talking to. And what if it is somebody's grandmother that had lost her family? Do you really want to insult somebody
Right.
that is there and is cannot move on? If you believe
Wow.
that, why do you want to insult this person? Things like that.
this is, besides that, I want to tell you what I think about as far as provocation or
Oh yes.
confrontation. What's the worst? You're talking to thin air. There's nothing there. Okay,
Right.
worse, if you have a non-human entity, you doing that, when I'm saying you, I mean the person,
Right.
basically you're extending an invitation for interaction. You're
Yeah.
opening the door.
Hmm.
You know how the vampire movie, he can't come into the house unless he's invited.
Yes.
When you do
Exactly.
a confrontation or a provocation, you're basically saying, let's and the demon or whatever's there going, oh yeah,
Yeah. Right.
sure, absolutely, you want
Exactly.
to do that, okay, we'll go there.
Exactly.
And by the way, they don't take you sometimes up on the invitation right away.
Right. This
Sometimes
is
it could be
true.
down the road.
This is true. Very true.
And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, yeah, if it's a human spirit, like you said, grandma might be going, what? Oh, that awful young man, whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's like, oh my God, oh Lordy,
Right.
or nothing. There's nothing there. But like you said, without you knowing exactly what you're confronting or trying to insult or basically get in, you have to be really careful because, like you said, if you could really see maybe what you'd see standing there,
Hmm.
it'd make you poop in your pants.
Yes. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
basically, you're giving him an invite.
Hmm.
It's like, let's dance. And you
Exactly.
never want to do this because I hate to say it, you don't want that kind of what's the because I always think that a lot of these darker forces
Hmm.
there is always how's that, a suggestion that there's got to be some type of invite involved somehow,
Yes. Exactly. The
somewhere
law
in
of
the mix.
attraction. Yeah. Yep. The
But
law of attraction.
invite
Law
doesn't
of
always
attraction.
mean like an invite could
Right.
be taken in different
A challenge.
ways.
A challenge. It can be a
Yeah,
challenge.
a challenge,
Yeah.
um stupid invocations that people don't know. They're like doing stupid stuff.
Hmm.
And they I think that sometimes that's why I think that confrontation, whatever, nah,
Right.
that's not a very good idea.
Exactly. Exactly. And there was the time when I was, it was just before Sandra and I were married. It was like a week before, around there. And it was a Friday evening. I was coming out of work onto Pontiac Avenue in Cranston. And of course, you're just thinking about getting home and everything. It's a Friday afternoon, rush hour. And I'm waiting for the light to turn green at the intersection onto Pontiac Avenue. And all of a sudden, I heard this voice in my mind, a very soft voice said, when the light turned green, I heard, don't go just yet. So I didn't go on the green light. I figured, well, that's real enough voice. I'm going to wait here
Mm-hmm.
until people start beeping on me. Then I'll go.
Right.
And all of a sudden, this girl looked about 13 years old, went right in front of me on her
Wow.
bicycle,
Oh,
went right in front of me on her bicycle. And I clearly heard that voice in my mind, don't go just yet.
wow. Yeah.
And so
Yes. Isn't that incredible?
that was
And,
incredible.
and thank God that you listened to that voice, right?
Yes,
That you didn't go
yes.
off. My God, my imagination's
I
working
was
overtime
reminded,
today.
yes, just today on my way home, just before I came home to do this interview, there was these children in front of me on bicycles, and usually, children about 12, 13 years old, they'll know enough to at least, they may take their time, but they'll know enough to get out of the side of the road. There were
Yes.
these two boys. There's three boys on bicycles, and two of them were weaving in and out. One of them was right in front of me, and he just would not get out of the way. I didn't bother beeping at him, but he just would not get out of the way. Then his friend went right in front of him. Then he went in front of me like this. Then his other friend, like just defying.
And you're thinking, what are they trying to do?
Yes, yes, defying me to, and I'm praying that they don't do the ultimate thing and start going towards me, but I
Right. Exactly.
stopped right
Exactly.
there. And I mean,
Yes.
just incredible the way they were doing this. It's just,
Well, I've seen, sometimes I'll see people riding their bikes. I'm talking adults. That is like, against traffic and doing stuff that I'm like, are you crazy? You got a death wish on you? What are you doing? In other words, that sometimes they have sidewalks or they have ways like that you could be safer. Like, what are you doing? Why are you? It's like, well, yeah, I've seen people sometimes do real stupid stuff. And I can understand when they're teenagers. Again, it's like,
mhm,
what are you trying to prove?
right.
It's like guaranteed the car's going to win.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And you know what?
But
One of my favorite my favorite stories about a priest is Father Damien of Molokai.
Yes.
Father Damien, and that's in The Exorcist. That's why
Uh-huh.
Peter Blatty, the name
Yes.
Damien Karras was named after him. And as you know,
Okay.
he was the priest that was because he was very outspoken. They wanted to punish him. They wanted to keep him quiet. They transfer him to a leper colony in Molokai. That's the way of keeping him
Oh,
quiet.
yes, that's right. That he ended up
Yeah.
contracting leprosy. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. They thought he was too outspoken, so they thought hush him up. And what he did was bring so much attention to them. He built a church for them,
Yes.
a
Mm-hmm.
school and everything, tried to bring awareness. And he did get in so much trouble. There was a young woman that I guess a teenager had no place else to stay. She was homeless, so he let
Mm-hmm.
her sleep in the rectory in a separate room.
Right.
Uh, and there was a younger priest sent to assist him, but also to spy on him. And
There you go.
this younger priest started his white church started painting in red. That was the last story. He started painting it red so it would look like a school or something like that. It didn't look like a
Mm,
church anymore.
right.
And because Damien was his superior, Father Damien, he said, "Why are you playing the church red when I told you not to?" He said, "I think it should be red, and it's going to be red." And Father Damien
Mm-hmm.
said, "Dear Father, if you paint this church red, I'm going to paint you red. Do we understand each other?" so
I
so
love it. I
the
love
priest
it.
he
Ah.
transferred after that. He transferred, but
Did they
there
ever
was
get to canonize him?
no. He was up for being canonized, but they never actually did canonize him
Really? Okay.
because they said there were not enough miracles attributed to him. There were no
Uh,
miracles.
did
Although
you?
what he did was like a miracle, and of course, as you know, the
Yeah,
final
I was gonna
did,
say.
he finally caught leprosy, and he got brought up
Yes.
all these charges and everything, and he caught leprosy, and he said this is the last thing he was going to do. Now, if he had any sins or weaknesses, vanity was not one of them.
Well,
Van-
and the reason why I bring this up is I don't know if you heard the Catholic Church. It's like, okay, Marlene, are you gunning for the? They just they're in the process. In other words, the Pope just gave the thumbs up for canonizing what they call the first millennial saint. And it's a
uh,
young man. I don't know if you've heard of him, Carlo
I
Acutis or something like
I've
that.
heard of him. I'm not sure of all the details, but I have heard of him.
Okay, but he passed away like when he was 15. I think it was like, in other words, I think it was 2006,
Mm-hmm.
and they're making him a saint and the
Ah,
first millennial saint, and they're saying, oh, they've already had a couple of miracles, and I'm like, this doesn't. I'd be like, they're making him a saint. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not taking away from whatever because I don't know the exact details, but it's like, I don't know. I think it's like it's expedient sainthood. Like we want a saint to relate to the millennials. It's like
oh
really.
yes, yes, yes.
It's like what
Mark
is that?
Saint. Yes,
Yeah, I thought they had a higher bar, higher
right.
standard for sainthood, canonization, or whatever. But
Mhm.
that's why I asked, and then case in point, here we're talking about Father Damien, who dedicates himself to this, to working with the lepers,
Yes,
on an
yes,
island. People don't realize that's what some places had that would sending people that had leprosy to islands was the way of how they handled
yes, yeah,
the leprosy because people were very scared of it. And,
yeah.
and they originally they didn't really know how it was transmitted.
Exactly, exactly. But
Yeah.
that's what Father Damien. He couldn't have been very vain because the last thing he did was he hired a photographer and told the photographer, "I want you to take photographs of me, as many as you can, in every stage of this disease." He said,
Wow.
"I will dress up in my priestly vestments.
Uh-huh.
I'm a white man. I'm a Catholic priest. I'll dress up my priestly. Wait till they see these pictures of a white man who's a priest, and then they'll realize the reality of this. It's not just the Polynesians. It's not just the native people
Right.
here. This can affect any of God's children." And
Sure.
so he had every stage of the disease as his skin was peeling away from him. He had
Yeah.
close up pictures taken, dressed in his full priestly garments, and just like, but this is what this disease is, and this is what it does. These people need help, and he did so
Yes.
to
I
bring away.
believe he also had some nuns out there working with him, right?
Yes, yes, he did. He
Mm-hmm.
did. He did. And
And what was it? I had never heard that story though. That he got for having a big mouth. I love it.
no,
He
yeah,
got
yeah,
he
they
got
wanted
sent off to the leprechaun. That's pretty.
they basically wanted to shut him up because he was too outspoken. So they sent him
But
to
what
the
was he?
leprechaun.
What was he? He had to have been outspoken about something. What was it that he was
Just
pointing out?
just basically, if he saw something wrong, he'd speak about it, and he
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be quiet. Even if it was in the church, if he saw something
Yes. Oh
among his
no,
fellow priests,
absolutely.
he'd bring it up, and he'd talk about it. He'd bring it up, and he wouldn't stand for it. So they thought they quiet him up. They,
Let me tell
instead
you
of
something, brother. You
defrocking
have
him,
to
they
be
sent him
like,
to the county.
I don't know. See, that's the part I don't understand. His superiors, whatever they were, you
Mm-hmm.
know, cardinals, bishop, archbishop, whatever. How could you sleep? How could you be sleep at night knowing that? Because how's this? If somebody says, a priest or a nun says, I want to go work with the lepers, I want to go there. That's
Mm-hmm.
different. This is
Yes.
what if they feel that their vocation is to go there and work with the lepers. And of
Yeah.
course, this is pre-treatment times, people, you know, that's different versus sending somebody out there as a punishment.
Yes.
That's very, very evil kind of
Yes.
deal.
Yes. It is. It is. It is very evil. It is very evil. And
Yeah. It's like I'm gonna get rid of my whatever he is, but the and it's unfortunate that there seemed to be speaking of Malachi Martin,
mhm.
when he left the church, I always get that feeling that I think that when he left, which he only, I think he kept most of his vows except the one for poverty and one
Yes.
other one, something
Hmm.
like that. I think that I think he saw things in the church because this
Hmm.
was like what the six, that he himself was like, I want
Yes.
to be a part of this, but I don't want to be a part of
Right.
this.
Well, he
You
never
know,
agreed. He never agreed with Vatican II either.
right? No, I know he
Very
didn't. He was
staunch
original,
proponent of that. Yes.
but I think he saw other things. I think internally
Hmm.
that made him like, I want to be a priest, but I can't overcome the problems that he saw
Hmm.
with the church internally. And then of course, what happened within the stuff. But yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Hmm.
But Keith, this has been great to talk to you. I could talk to you in hours and hours and hours. This is
Yeah, I could
great.
talk to you for hours as well. You're so knowledgeable, and
This
you
is
have a
this.
you have an incredible grasp of this field and what is actually going on in the
Yes,
spiritual realm, and that
yes,
it is a reality. It is
yes,
a reality.
yes. Let me tell you, and I'm sure I know that people say, "Oh, Marlene," but I'm saying there's a wow, what do you want to call it? There's yeah, I'm gonna go there. A fascination with the occult, not with the occult as in, but the darker aspect of the
Yes.
occult,
Hmm.
which I think opens the door. And like what they had with the what was it this past Christmas, that they had um a satanic imagery around
Hmm.
the holidays, and I'm like, what
Oh yeah.
like where is this?
Hmm.
And I know that everybody goes, well, freedom of religion and all. It's like, I'm sorry, wait, stop, stop, stop.
Hmm.
I'm sorry. I know that there's people that will say, well, no, if it's Luciferianism or Satanism or whatever they want to call it, there's a darker aspect to it. There's a very dark aspect to it that I think is, unfortunately, now is,
Hmm.
how's this, being fanned by whether it's entertainment or
Oh yeah. And I think a lot of
movies.
people are also desensitized as well.
Yes.
Hmm.
Don't you remember when The Exorcist came out? I remember there was people running around going, I mean, the Catholic Church was being overrun by people saying, exorcise me. I think I got
Oh yes. Yes.
everybody wigged out totally.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It was made the newspapers, how people were like so wigged out. And I want to say that people up to then, for what it's worth, were innocent.
Hmm.
Like I said before, that the worst you were going to get was maybe some movies that were, a little bit,
Right.
corny, or vampires, or, maybe a slasher film, but nothing to the
Yes.
extent of, and I think that's what threw everybody off. Um, that basically it was like, you know, the people were not jaded. And by now, what you're saying, they've become desensitized.
Yes.
But the problem with that is that the message is still being fed out there. How's that?
Yes. The message is still being broadcast. It's still being fed out there.
Right. And then I'm going to say it, and there's a lot of young people, and it's sometimes not even young people, who decide that they're going to dabble in the dark stuff. And then it's like, good luck on that,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't realize that, and maybe you come across it in some of your cases, that when you're saying, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to play this anymore, whatever you've contacted, invoked, been
Yes.
around, participated in a ceremony, or even watched, says,
Mm-hmm.
well, but I'm not done with you.
Oh, yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Uh, and then that's, how can I say it? I think that that's where I've even heard of people that have not been actively participating, but they've been witnesses to whether it's a ceremony or an invocation or something with a very dark aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And they sometimes get targeted, and they might have just been standing in the back of the room
True.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen that actually, Marlene. I've seen that where it will take the weakest link.
Yes.
It'll go to the weakest link
Uh-huh.
and everything.
Yes.
I was
Yes. And you would think, how did they know? It's because it's a dark force. What do you think?
exactly, exactly. I had some. I was working a tool complex, a tool manufacturing complex,
Uh-huh.
and the I got friends with the dietary workers there, which because they worked for another company, and one of them I was sensing oppression in the cafeteria,
Okay.
and the one of the women I was friends with, she just spontaneously she grabbed my hand and said the Lord's Prayer, and she said I just felt led to do that. Meanwhile, then I worked in the basement. We're testing the tools been manufactured there, and heard a knock on the door, and I open it, and there's the two women from dietary, and the younger woman. She was behind the counter. She showed me her wrist. She just got 3 scratches.
What?
When the other woman grabbed my wrist because I was feeling there was an oppressing spirit there, she said the Lord's Prayer. She said at that moment, she didn't know, she didn't even know that the woman had been praying for me. She felt something scratch her, and she looked, and she had 3 scratches on her wrist. And I asked her, I said, have you ever been baptized? She said, no, I don't come from a religious family. I've never been baptized. And I realized that there was an oppressing spirit there, and it just grabbed onto her for a moment,
Okay.
gave her a
Yeah.
little 3 scratches. And it was 3 scratches, the
Yes.
during the Trinity there. So
Yes, right. That they say that that's whether it's the three knockings or the three scratches, or that
yeah,
supposedly this is like a mocking of the Trinity.
right. And my
Uh,
brother and I were assisting on an exorcism back in the early 1980s, and it was quite a well. I think it was a dangerous exorcism, very dangerous, because it was an Hispanic family, a Puerto
mm-hmm.
Rican family, and a young boy who was 14 years old was being taken over, and they asked if we would assist in the exorcism, and I said I would feel honored to. And I said, what's your religion? They said, we're Catholic. And I said, oh, okay, I will certainly assist. We came there, and there's everything set up, and it didn't look quite like they had a big bowl, looked like fruit punch. I said, oh, is that the desserts? Is that refreshments? No, that's the holy water. And it looked the candles looked very ritualistic. And I was very curious, and I was saying, where's the priest? When's the priest going to arrive? Waiting for the father to arrive. And my brother told me there's no priest. The boy's aunt is going to perform the exorcism. And I said, I thought this was
Oh.
Catholic. And she said, no, this is a Santorian exorcism.
Oh, I
You know?
knew it. I knew it. Holy crap. Here we
Yeah.
go.
Yes,
Oh.
yes. And I didn't know that till I arrived. This is a Santorian exorcism. And there was one time when we were praying. We were sitting around in the semicircle. I was the only one, and his mother was doing the incantation,
Mm-hmm.
his aunt rather. And I had my Bible open. I was reading scripture, and the spirit came out of him, and it started attacking everybody from the back of the neck.
Okay.
That's one of the entrance points. It's believed, and I think
Yes.
Martin talked about that. And
Yes. It's. I'm not. No. I'm thinking of the atlas, but there's one back here, right here in the
yes,
vertebrae. Yes. Go ahead.
yes, yeah, it was like right at the vertebrae where it starts, and
Mm-hmm.
base of the skull there, the occipital bone, and
Yes.
everybody was feeling that something grabbed. My brother felt it. My brother
Mm-hmm.
felt it, and he felt suddenly very extremely hostile, but he just shook it off. He fought it off. He concentrated. Um, the woman next to me, the young Hispanic woman next to me, suddenly grabbed onto her and she screams, "Oh, Dios mío!" She's screaming, "Get it off! Get it off! Get it off! Get it off!" And she's screaming and crying and sobbing.
Right.
It did not touch me. It did not touch
Okay.
me. Not that I'm saying I'm a
No,
holy.
no, 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 no,
Yes,
no.
simply because I had my Bible open, was reading scripture. It just passed right by me.
And finally, what happened?
It was an exhausting. My brother and I got thrown around the room, even though it was a slim 14-year-old boy. Tried pinning him down, and it was very, very hard to hold him down. And he started, he was screeching and crying out. Then the exorcist herself, rather a short, stout woman,
Mm-hmm.
suddenly she rears up like this, and she falls back onto the altar and
Yeah.
and she goes into apparently a ground mal seizure. Then
Yeah.
she gets up and her eyes are blackened and narrowed, and she's got this smirk on.
She got
And
mounted. That's what
her
I call it.
yes,
She got mounted.
her familiar spirit had gone into her.
Mm-hmm.
She had a little black Buddha statue. She said, "That's where my familiar spirit lives." And it was
Yippee. Oh, this is great. Go ahead.
I'd never seen a statue of a Buddha painted black before. This was
Uh-huh.
painted jet black. She said, "That's where my spirit lives." And it came into her, and she's, and talking in Spanish. She's got this, suddenly her voice has changed. She's got a high sing-songy voice. And she's saying, "Gather round, I will tell your fortunes. I will tell your fortunes." And everybody runs over all excited. And I'm like, this is not what we came here for. This is
Yeah, I
like,
was gonna say, what happened to the exorcism?
yes, right, right. And at the end, he was very exhausted. The boy was very exhausted, and he seemed to be all right, just very exhausted. I didn't think he was, but other people disagree with me. My brother said, "Yeah, I think that was successful." But 2 weeks later, they were driving with him. He was in the car, and they went by a church, and I believe mass was going on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly he's bolted up and started screaming and was taken over again. So they stepped on the gas and they went around the corner and he stopped. So
I guess no.
yeah.
What was it prior to that? What was it that? Why did they think he was possessed? What was he doing?
He was having these episodes where suddenly he would jump up, and he would be fine. He was a
Mm-hmm.
soft-spoken young guy, 14 years old,
Right.
and suddenly he became very bestial and would start screaming. His eyes became wild. And my brother stayed over once. They asked my brother to stay over to witness this. So my brother
Okay.
was sleeping. He was not asleep. He was on the sofa. And all of a sudden, the door burst open, and there's the boy screaming. And I don't know how he did that. My brother described he's going around like a top, like this.
Like a
He comes in
whirling
the room,
dervish kind of
spins
thing.
around, right? He's just spinning around the room like this, screaming, and then he jumps up on the sofa with this maniacal laugh and screaming and screaming and falling back. Then he gets up. What happened? He has no remembrance of what happened.
The reason why I say this is because Santeria, unfortunately, they believe in keeping these spirits around for divination
Oh yes,
purposes.
yes,
All
yeah,
right. People don't realize.
hmm,
So
right,
it's like when you're telling me the ant is
yeah,
coming to do this, it's like, are you kidding me? They're the
oh yeah,
ones that will welcome in all these discarnates
yes,
because they use them
right,
for
right.
divination. And in some cases, that's where well, you said also in voodoo where they get mounted,
Hmm.
basically like what you saw. That it's like a voluntary possession, temporary kind of still, but
Right.
whatever. That it's
Well, that's a good point, Marlene, because there was one time he was on the floor and he was screaming during the exorcism, and I probably shouldn't have spoken to him, but there was no priest there or anything to guide or
right.
anything. So I did say to the spirit, "You realize you're going to have to leave this boy." And suddenly they said, "No, no, no, we don't want it to leave. We don't want it to leave. We don't want it to leave."
There
I
you
thought an
go.
exorcism was to get it to leave,
Yeah.
but no, no, we
Yes.
want to find out things. We want to talk to it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Exactly. So they kind of lured you guys there under false pretenses because
yes,
you guys were thinking a legit exorcism.
that's what I thought. I thought I was going to
Yeah.
be very, I'll stay in the background, whatever the priest, if he needs me to try to hold him down, I will help
Right.
with that. If he needs me to repeat, to respond in the liturgy, I will. Otherwise, I'll just stand there. I'll defer to
Mm-hmm.
the priest authority. But no, that's the opposite of what it was like. It really was.
Well, sometimes maybe they got, who knows what they, who, I'm telling you, a lot of that stuff leaves the door open. And if there's there's the brujeria, or what they call palo mayombe, which is the dark side of santeria, even though santeros have their own problems
Hmm.
with some of the stuff they pull in as
Yeah.
far as working with the dead, or binding them.
Yes.
They use them sometimes. They bind them, in some of their. That's why when you said that bowl, I was like, oh my god, what bowl? But they
Right.
have different things of. In other words, that they use the spirits of the dead for different. Besides the divination, they use them
Yes.
for a lot of other stuff as messengers or curses or you name it. So, yeah, that poor kid. I don't see him. I know without knowing, but I don't think he was. And in it's people don't understand that somehow or other they can still mix this with Catholicism.
Oh
How's that?
yes, yes, yes. That's exactly what it was because they
You
had
know?
little saints, the statues,
Yeah.
everything like that. And
I bet you. Did you go to all the rooms in the house?
yes, I did. And
No closets, because sometimes you either go find a room, or if not, you'll open up a closet, and it'll be that they'll have
oh, I wouldn't have been
all
I wouldn't have been surprised at all because
ceremonial,
they
all
did have
the
statues
stuff.
there. And
Yeah.
yes, they have an altar set up and everything. I went to
Yeah.
a Sandra and I and our group near was sent to a house in Providence
Uh
where
huh.
we were supposed to do a deliverance of the spirit or do a house cleansing there. And they said, I said, what's your religion? They didn't say that they were, they said they were Catholic. They didn't
Uh
say,
huh.
but there's the grandmother has the, the abuela has the altar there with all the saints and everything set up very
Right.
neatly and everything. And she does her prayers in front of that. And I could tell it was, if it wasn't Santeria, it was something very, very similar.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were having problems. And we were going to do our thing there, but the woman looked at Sandra, the homeowner. She said, so are you the psychic? Are you the psychic? You're going to tell me what spirits are here and everything? And
There you go.
Sandra says, no, I'm not. I'm not a
I'm here to
sensitive.
get rid of them. How's that?
Right. Right. Exactly. That's what they were there for. So, and unfortunately, she had a little girl that was just walking around, a 2-year-old. And,
Uh,
you know,
yeah. Yes. Yes. That can go very badly in a
mhm.
lot of different ways. And I mean, that has a very dark aspect to it, that they don't, they try to whitewash it,
Yes. Hmm.
but it very easily is it can get very, very dark. And again, when you're using blood sacrifices, because of course you know that they allow, well, as a matter of fact, here in Florida, in Hialeah's, where was it, what is it, the 1980s,
Hmm.
that one of the what they call the babalao, or the, like, a priest,
Yes.
he got brought up on animal cruelty charges because he was sacrificing chickens,
Oh,
and he took it through the court systems based on religious beliefs, and it got, in other words, the law was on his side, that he proved that the sacrifice was part of their religious observations.
right.
All
Yes,
right.
I remember that being in the court system. I didn't know
Yeah, this was, I want
exactly
to say
how
it was the
they.
1980s, something like that.
Yes, I didn't know exactly how it was resolved, but they
Well,
did
no,
resolve.
I'm sorry, be quiet, you guys. Who knows what they're. Anyway, yeah, my audience, don't worry, knows every, see it. But the but the thing is that they kill chickens, goats,
Hmm.
and that, how's this? The bigger the problem, the bigger the sacrifice.
Yes.
How's that?
Hmm.
And they in some instances, like I said, that's a whole nother show. Maybe you could come back and we could talk about that, Keith.
Yes.
Where some of these darker aspects, not even Santeria or this, other, you know, forget how they want to call themselves. Well, the ultimate sacrifice is a human sacrifice.
Oh yes. Yeah.
All right. And there you're talking, but the bigger like I said, the bigger the problem, or the bigger the, what do you call it? Not the supplication, but what you want. How's that?
Right. Right.
You
Exactly.
know, the ultimate is
Right. The petition and the
the
yeah.
petition, right?
Right.
That's the end all be all,
Right.
is
Exactly.
a human sacrifice. And people go, oh, Marlene, satanic panic. And I'm like, no, Not quite.
Oh,
There's no
that's
panic.
a
People are
reality
not.
too. That is a reality. That is,
Yes, yes.
you
It's
know, and that,
unfortunate they've poo-pooed it a lot, but there's more. And now they're discovering that a lot of crime scenes, Keith, basically the police and even the detectives didn't know what they were looking at as far as occult symbolism left at crime
yes,
scenes,
right, exactly.
um, because they just didn't understand what it was.
Yes, we were in Precious Blood Cemetery in Woonsocket, and we have um, a saint. She was not canonized, but people still refer to her as a saint that's buried there. She was a stigmatist that's
Okay.
actually buried there in Precious Blood Cemetery. And she died at age 33 and was born in Quebec in a manger. She was born in a manger,
Wow.
so did meet some of
Okay.
and but there we were there and our friend Brian Hanwha he always wanted to take Sandra and I because he lived nearby to show us the cemetery and beautiful under the full moon. The statuary is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunately there's a lot of spirit activity there. Part of it
Yes.
because it was flooded out in the 1950s by a hurricane, and they lost a lot of the bodies, and
Okay.
nobody
So
knows if people are buried in the right spot there now. So, and there's been
sure.
cult activity, but we just before we left, and there was a beautiful full moon and everything, beautiful night. It was May 1st, and this is quite some years ago. It was May 1st, and the we found a dead cat, and
There you go.
it was pretty hacked up. It was mangled. There were bugs all over it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was recording. I had my tape recorder going, and it's and of course Sandra's saying, "Oh no, oh no," and we're talking about it. You know how terrible that is. And when we left, I said, "Brian, you mind if I start playing my recording?" He said, "Go ahead." I put the tape in, and then you hear when we come across the dead cat, and it's and you hear Sandra saying, oh no, no," and then we heard a voice say, "Good people, what's a dead cat?"
Oh.
Uh, It just and it was just like that clear. Good people,
Mm-hmm.
what's a dead cat? And it
Yes.
dawned on me. This is May 1st. This is
Oh, Mayday.
Yes, this is May Day. This is
Yes.
Beltane.
Yes.
Now
Beltane. Yes.
in the general and Orthodox pagan religion,
Mm-hmm.
packing a cat up is not part of their ritual, but that's not part. It's very life giving, of course. But somebody will take that. It's Beltane. I'll do a ritual tonight. I'll do a satanic ritual, and I believe that was a sacrifice there, and the spirit was still
Absolutely. That's
hovering
what it
around,
was.
and
Yeah.
very archaically because we were just there investigating and taking a tour there. It said, "Good people, what's a dead cat?" And you know what's unfortunate about that? Um, that EVP was taken away.
What do you mean?
Sometimes you have an EVP recorder voice. Can be a Class A one. The
Yes.
next day it's gone, and
Whoa.
this wasn't gone the next day. I was meaning to upload it. I was going to upload,
Mm-hmm.
have it to play, but when I tried to play it again, it was a Class A. A few weeks later, when I went to upload it, it had faded, and eventually
Wow.
it was totally gone. There was, I mean, I can tell people what it's saying, but you can't really. It was just when we first recorded it, it was a Class A. Good people, what's a dead cat? As if somebody was just standing there with
Right
us.
there.
Yep.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. I tell people cemeteries, you don't worry about the dead people. What you have to worry about is the people that go in there doing,
Oh yes, definitely.
whether they're, forget the stealing of, of stuff or graveyard
Yes.
dirt. But there's a lot of people that do.
Yeah, the
They either do the invocations there, the spell work, or they
right.
dispose of the items
Mm-hmm.
in the cemetery grounds.
Right.
I
Right.
remember one time I've always had chickens, and about this was 5 years, 5 or 6 years. I had one
Mm-hmm.
of these little bantams, laid like a dozen eggs, got a bunch of chicks, had too many roosters. I put them up
Yeah.
for sale. These are the smaller little. I had those little bantams. They were very popular because people that wanted a couple of chickens.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like 3 roosters. It's like too many boys. Halloween night, I get a call. I had put like a little ad. I can't remember where did I put the ad. I can't remember. I think it was Craigslist or something like that.
Yes.
selling. No, it wasn't. I can't remember. I think it was Craigslist. Anyway, I got a call from. I could tell it was a younger guy. Hey, you still have those roosters for sale? I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I want to buy all three.
Really?
And I went, no, I'm sorry. Nah. Hey, yeah, I may believe my husband. No, he told me he sold them all. I was like, you son of a gun. You're
Oh
gonna
my,
sacrifice these animals, and they're not gonna be my roosters. You
yeah,
know, that
yeah.
was. It was like, yeah, you must think I'm stupid.
But
You
you
know,
knew what was going on behind the scenes.
sure. Yeah, of course. I that was guaranteed. It was like guaranteed. First of all, you're calling me how some young guy wants not one rooster, but the three roosters that I have now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I know that a lot of times people do some of the stuff that goes on in and like you said, who's because if you say, well, a dead cat, maybe the cat was hurt and it goes in there and it dies, that's different. It happens. But when you have an animal that's been hacked up,
Yes. Yes.
that's unfortunate. That speaks to
Yeah.
something else.
Exactly. Exactly. And the night before was Walpurgis Knot, which
Yes.
been the sacrifice there too. And
Yes.
I want to ask you, Marlene,
Mm-hmm.
you do get involved in cases like this sometimes, though, right? You do,
Yes. Yes, I do.
because I've been having a heck of a time when I get clients. Because I mean, I can't just fly out to every place. And
Right.
we used to make a joke about we need the near jet, but I was afraid too many people would take us seriously. You guys get a jet, but no.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I wish.
Right. So I try to network with people, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
having the worst time finding groups that will even touch or look into a case that's potentially demonic in Florida.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, what I talked to you before we started recording was that I do a lot of consulting behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'm bilingual and I
Good.
do have knowledge of that. And I have worked in cases where, whether it's, besides the regular haunting, I have, but there's a darker aspect, or if there's anything having to do with either Santeria or the voodoo,
Mm-hmm.
or what they call out of Brazil, candomblé, which, as a matter of fact, in this last training that they had at the exorcism in the Vatican,
Mm-hmm.
they had one course that was specifically about Brazilian dark magic.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
specifically dark magic. That type of dark magic, and they're very similar, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
they're like the voodoo and the Santeria and all they're the same but different. They have their
Yeah.
own. And I'm gonna real quick before you forget. You said that pain, that thing in the neck.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Okay, the origin of any of these things is it's the African diaspora that came over with the slaves. But
Mm-hmm.
originally in Africa, there's something called muti magic, MUTI, okay,
Okay.
which involves human sacrifice. And as a matter of fact, in South Africa, at one point, they even had a special police unit that was investigating murders because
Yeah.
they were ritualistic.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they find is one of the bones that they consider it a power, what's the word I'm looking? That you could take from a body you sacrifice is what I believe it's the atlas bone it's
Okay.
right there in the
Right.
neck, in the back
Mm-hmm.
of the neck. In other
Yes.
words, possessing that bone,
Mm-hmm.
okay, is like a charm, like a power charm. And
Ah.
then of course they pick their choice of victims is usually depending on what they're trying to achieve:
Yeah.
virility, innocence. Like I said, the bigger the problem, it depends on what they're trying to accomplish. But that
Yes.
right there, that muti magic, that's one of the things that they have found is that they hold on to it. How's
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yes.
And if anybody remembers, this was a few years back. There was a little boy that was fished out of the Thames in London,
Mm-hmm.
that he was basically dismembered, and they found out he had come. I don't want to say it was Nigeria. Maybe it was Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, they basically he didn't have his arms on him, but they found like one of them. Why they put together why they thought he was a sacrifice versus just somebody killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the missing body parts, he was missing that bone, and the color shorts that he was wearing, and even what he had been fed. Like, he came from Africa, stayed in Germany, and then he was brought and in other words, he was brought expressly for as a sacrificial victim. All right. So when you said that thing about the bone, that's what the reason. That's why.
Ah, that's
Yes,
that
that's
is
out of your
enlightening. Very
because a
enlightening.
lot of these religions, they're based out of what's called the Yoruba
Hmm.
people, and that's one of this is even pre, you know, the belief system. But now, yeah, they as a matter of fact, they even now they have a big problem with murders. That what was it? Now they since the government now made laws against killing people,
Hmm.
what they'll do is just like let's say if they'll take hands or take whatever part of the body without killing the person. Hopefully, like
Right.
they don't outright kill you.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I was reading recently, like they had a young man
Hmm.
and he got attacked and they hacked off both of his hands.
Ah.
Luckily, a security guard came by and hurt him. I guess they threw him in the bushes
Hmm.
and saved him because otherwise he would have like bled out.
Right. Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
but in other words, okay, we won't kill you, but we'll just take, which is if you dismember somebody, if you take their hands and you don't give them medical attention, they're more than likely they're going to bleed out and they're going to die.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
that's how they get around because now the government is saying, hey, no more killing people. Okay, well, we'll just take body parts.
Oh, wow. Oh my
But
goodness.
yeah, but there's a the very dark aspect as far as that's concerned, and yeah, we got to get together and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Definitely.
you
Definitely.
know, because
I worked with.
absolutely at the base of all of that is
Yes.
demonic.
Yeah.
Um, that's evil with a capital E.
Yes. Yes. It is. It is. And that place I worked at, where we the made and tested the tools. I had
Mm-hmm.
a worker there. I was a supervisor of the department. Had a worker there. He'd just come from Africa, and it was a cute little guy, very cute little guy, high pitched voice and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
he told me his uncle was a mortician, and that's what he was going to be. He wanted to be a mortician. That was his goal of coming to this country, to be a mortician.
Mm-hmm.
And he said in his country, I'm not even sure which country he came from, which province, but he said sometimes they don't clean up the bodies from traffic accidents right away, or if somebody dies in the side of the road, they don't always immediately clean it up like
Mm-hmm.
they do in this country. But he said his uncle would sometimes take the bodies, and whoever claimed it first got to take it to his mortuary, and he would get the money for it and everything like that. So that's what he wanted to do here. And I said, I patted him on the back. I said, I'm sorry. You have to go to mortician school. You have to get your license. This is
Right, right.
quite a
It's not gonna want to
distance.
open up shop.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just wanted to do it. I just wanted to do it.
Let me
I
tell you.
mean, he was cute in a way. The way he's so
Right,
believed.
to him, it's like, man, what we.
He was so
I
innocent.
guarantee you, I guarantee you, his there's 20 what last year. So I want to say it's about a year ago. The director, well, not the director, the manager of the morgue at Harvard,
Mhm.
at their anatomical college.
Yes.
People they can give their bodies over, for anatomical research.
Hmm.
Well, he had worked there for like 30 years. Guess what he was doing? He was selling the body parts.
Oh my goodness. Selling them
Because
to who? Just anatomists,
what? Oh, wait. Well, see
cultists, and
what supposedly happens is after I guess the anatomy med students, whatever they
yeah.
done, they turn him over and he's supposed to get them cremated.
Yes.
And he had contracted. He even had crematoriums that was like come and pick up whatever's left of the whatever it was.
Right.
Well, he's turning around. He's selling them on Facebook. He was, and he got
Oh my
caught. He got
goodness.
busted.
Sounds like the
He
dark web. He would have to sell these off.
no, that's why I was like,
Oh man,
and
good.
he had there's as a matter of fact and you know how it came out. You want me to tell you how it came out?
Yeah.
It's really funny because you live to think of these things like how this is Harvard, and people, I'm sure they donate their bodies with the best intentions, like, hey, might
Yeah.
as well further research or whatever.
Mhm.
Turns out there's a guy in Pennsylvania, and he runs this little a museum because apparently it's not illegal to own body parts
Oh,
like skin, heart, bones,
right,
whatever.
right.
Okay. So he has, I think he doesn't have it anymore. I'm not sure. He has a museum called Memento Mori, and he
Ah,
would even make different things. He would
mhm.
tan skin, human skin. He would
Oh,
make dice,
yes.
fetuses, you name it,
Ah,
weird
my
stuff.
goodness.
So anyway, he's doing this. He's married, has a falling out with his ex-wife, and apparently, I guess it was a bad ending kind of deal because he
Yes.
had like one of those injunctions put against him.
Right. Right.
And I think his ex-wife was the one that stayed in the home.
Hmm.
So one time she goes down to the basement and she finds buckets of body parts. I think those 5 gallon or something body parts.
Yes.
And I can't say that she didn't know because come on, if you're married to the guy and you know he
Yeah.
has his museum, but I think she wigged out thinking, "Holy crap!" Or she saw, I don't know. Bottom line, she called police, or she was really doing a number on him.
Hmm.
She called police, and that's how the police got introduced to it.
Real.
Found out. Wait a minute, where are you
Yes.
getting all these body parts from?
Yeah.
What? So that's what led them to this guy in Harvard morgue. Well,
Hmm.
not their morgue they're at. And from there, it led to a mortuary in Arkansas. Like all these people that were places that were supposed to be disposing of these remains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turns out they were networking and selling all these body
Oh my
parts
goodness.
all over. and
Talk about underground trafficking.
and that's why I'm saying, coming back to what you were saying about this gentleman,
Yeah.
people don't realize that there's, besides the trafficking, you hear this trafficking of human organs.
Hmm.
There is trafficking of human body parts,
Oh my goodness.
like really like disturbing things that you look at it.
Hmm.
And there's one picture of him. I looked at it in Facebook, and he's holding like a bunch of rib bones, human rib bones, and he goes, "I'm selling these for like $500." By the way, this stuff is not cheap.
I wouldn't think it would be.
This stuff is not cheap. And
Wow.
one of
Like,
the guys that was in there that they kind of followed through as far as buyers, the
right.
police get there, and he's got a bunch of skulls in his house,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
A bunch of skulls in his house. Wow.
his the police, first thing they say is, "Hey, is there anybody here inside the house?" And he goes, "No, just only my friend," and he's got like a scarf wrapped around the skull and stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's like, okay, but yeah, getting back to that thing about like yeah, very disturbing, kind of dark. And
Yes.
we laugh, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's also a big layer of occult stuff
Yes.
there going on there, as
Um,
far as what they do with that. But anyway, it has been wonderful. We got to get together again, Keith. We got
we
to talk
do.
about
We
this. And
do.
yes, let me know. I will send you how to get a hold of me through my phone number.
Thank you. I appreciate it because it is so difficult to network. I mean, you can
Yes,
network with other groups, but I say you're looking for cases. Yes, well, I have a case for you, but it might involve something,
yes,
non-human, and,
yes.
and then I kind of lose touch with them after that.
Sure, I understand, and I know that unfortunately some groups, they also dissolve very quickly
Hmm.
when they find out it's not like all the paranormal shows. Like, in other
Right,
words, that
right,
sometimes you
exactly.
go to stuff and it's like, nothing's
Yeah,
happening here. It's like, yeah, that occurs every.
right.
Again, thank you so much, Keith. It has been
Oh, you're
absolutely
very welcome.
wonderful. For my podcast listeners, how can they find you? Is there any way?
Yes, go to nearparanormal.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have a YouTube show,
Okay.
Ghost. It's the Ghost Arnear Show on YouTube.com.
Okay.
And if you're looking for Keith and Sandra Johnson, we're easy to find.
Okay.
Keith and Sandra Johnson, Keith Johnson, Demonologist, anything like that, you'll be able to find us. But Near Paranormal is the easiest way.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
Near.
Excellent. We gotta come. We gotta get together again.
Yes.
But
Yes,
like
we
I
do.
said, I'll be sending you that email and everything, and we'll take it from there. But definitely, you gotta come back and we gotta talk some more about this. It's very
Sure.
interesting.
Definitely. Definitely. Has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Likewise, I loved it. I loved it. It's been great. Take care.
Take care and God bless you.
Likewise. God bless you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Wow, huh? I'm sure he's got stories. I mean, I'm not gonna be like, okay. And 4 hours later, Marlene is still asking him about his cases. But yeah, because, um, like he said, it's one thing to go out on the regular, good old dead person case, if there is something there. like he said, is it somebody that's lost, human soul that's lost? Is it somebody that maybe, like I said before, had religious beliefs that thought, I'm going to go to hell? People sometimes, they, that might be a concern, you know, or they're just very attached to the possessions, their house, or they maybe thought there was no afterlife. They thought that that's it. Once you die, and that's the end of that. Then they find out, oops. Or maybe the very simple, which you you do run across this, you will have entities that just don't know they're dead. They didn't get the memo. They might have died suddenly, violently, like, or unconscious, or under the effects of drugs or anesthetized, and the transition, it escaped them. And you will, even in older writings that you talk to, even some of, and I know people are going to say, well, Marlene, back then there was a lot of mediums and spiritualists, that there was a bunch of BS. Some, yes, there was a lot that weren't. Some very good sources. I'm not talking about the people with that had the thing coming out of their nose. I'm not talking about that. Which I never got that part. Like, why do you have to have like ectoplasm come out of your belly button for whatever? Anyway, that they would say that certain discarnates, certain spirits, after a while of them being, if you want to call it, out of the presence of the divine, of being on this plane, which is not, they kind of develop like an amnesia of who they were, what happened to them. They were just like, anyway. Yes, there's cases like that where that's what you're dealing with. And sometimes it's just a question of telling them you're dead, or helping them, be on their way, whatever the case might be. Or just telling them to get out of here. You're dead. Bye-bye. You don't need a house. You don't need the clothes. It's not your house anymore anyway. Whatever. Get out. Whatever. But then there's what he's talking about, which is like, if you're talking a non-human entity, notice I'm not using the D word because it's very loaded. What you're gonna go through, what is it, the tunnel of light? Yeah, they're not. They're and I said I've heard of cases, and I've been involved in cases where you have both. You have your human spirit, who sometimes is even manipulated, or even the human spirits are scared of a darker, non-human entity that's there, that sometimes even keeps them trapped. Because remember, the purpose of evil is to make humans suffer and anguish and suffer. And if you can do that even to the human soul or spirit, and in other words, a non-corporeal, that's just as good as tormenting the living. I'll torment the ones that are here too. I'll trap them here. I won't let them go into the presence of God, into the presence of the divine, where all human souls want to be. All right? So, and this is, sometimes what Keith, without knowing the particulars of his cases, that you come across, and has happened to some paranormal groups, where they go into cases and they think it's just a regular old haunting, whether it's a residence or whether it's one of these historical places, then come to find out there's something darker there in the background, right? And like everything else, you never know what the source of this is. Let's put it this way. If you had somebody involved in occult activity, they're not going to come out and say it, or if they did some spell work or invocation, or if you look at the other, which is what he was talking about, this place where it had a retreat close by. People can go, well, Marlene, religious people are allowed to go into retreats. Sure, of course. But a lot of times a retreat was double speak for, we need to get you to lay low. And we're going to send you to this retreat house. Yes, and maybe some of the other people, whether there were nuns or priests, whoever the retreat house was for, are okay. And as a matter of fact, we want you to be around them so that maybe they'll like church you a little bit. But a lot of times these retreats were places that they would put religious members who are having real, by this, and I'm not talking about health problems, okay? I'm talking about lapses in their vows or darker stuff, right? And like I said, in that Hostage to the Devil, he talks about how a priest became possessed. I mean, in other words, just because you're a priest, let's say, and we're going here the Catholic route, just because you're a priest doesn't mean that you might not have voluntarily put yourself in the grip of evil. It's like one thing you're thinking, hopefully not, no, or something. But and I'm going to go down the road, and it's like, okay, Marlene, you're picking on the priest, right? No, I'm not. But you know what? There's times that you would think, well, there's people, whether they were nun or a priest, who go into religious life because they felt a vocation. This called to them. Their soul was like, I want to do this. But there's others, sorry, especially with a priest, who went into priesthood, and that was not really their motivation for entering the religious life. All right. One of two things: either they fooled themselves thinking I have a vocation, even though, and I do know that when somebody applies to become a priest or a seminarian, they screen them, and I know they turn away sometimes people that it's like, no, you're not. You might think you have a calling, but you're not priest material. That happens, but enough have slipped through. It's there's facts are facts, where they go in there for the wrong reasons, and they knowingly go in to become a priest for the wrong reasons, all right? Because the position will afford them access to certain people, certain places, or they fool themselves thinking, oh, I have a calling, but really what's driving their true, deep motivation to go into religious life is something darker as well. So I guess my point is that, like he gave that example of that retreat house, that there could have been people there with dark attachments. Absolutely. Absolutely. That some of it floated over. Of course. Yes. And I knew it. When he said that, I was like, oh, there you go. Yep. And by this, people in religious life doesn't mean like, hey, everybody, every nun, every priest that had a problem, a lapse, a doubt in faith, whatever, is like they were demonically possessed. I'm not saying that, because everybody at the end of the day is a human being. All right. I'm just talking about that there among them, there was something walking with them. Okay. It was very dark. And therefore, these are the cases that sometimes, like he was saying, that you could say, well, let's say when you want a case like one of these that you're thinking, well, it's a typical haunting in the sense that maybe not, and then once you get there, it takes on a darker aspect, or what the family's describing, or certain things that I'm sure Keith would say are your tip-offs to like, this is really like, there's something here that all of a sudden it's like, and I've said this before, I wasn't, when I told them, okay, there's paranormal groups that you say demon, they're like, I'm out of here, bye. Okay, just like there's priests and everything. Then hopefully there's some that say this is above my pay grade, but they don't leave the poor family hanging. They're like, hey, see ya. No, they hopefully get a hold of somebody like Keith, who has got connections with priests and this and this and that, and help these people out. All right. And how can I say it? In other words, paranormal research, I know some people are very entranced with it. But I've said this before so many times, there's always a darker aspect to it. There is. There is, because of what it looks like at first blush might be something beyond that. Beyond that. And if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't know how to recognize it, it could be a big problem. And also the part where you research, like, how did this come about? Okay. Because again, that retreat, the people living there, yeah, it could be the source, but it's like, how did this thing get a foothold in there? How did that happen? And that's where you got to really get people to be honest with you. Okay. Or maybe it was somebody, maybe it was prior occupants, but there's something there. And sometimes you need somebody like a Keith to realize, okay, we gotta, you ask yourself. In other words, you can't exorcise a person or deliver them or whatever you want to do if these people, if whoever is, or the family or the people surrounding them, are not willing to, are a part of it. Like he was saying in this other one, no, don't get rid of it. It's like, what? Okay, we got a problem here. You in other words, you got to find out, are these participants, how willing are they to step back from this and say, we want absolutely nothing. The reason why I'm saying this is, I'll go into my other thing. Let me continue my soapbox for a little bit. Is that even when you say you have, whether it's clergy or somebody like Keith or somebody come in there and they do a house blessing and they do this and they do a deliverance, if you think that that's over, whoever's involved in this, if it's one person, but the family, whoever lives in that household, you have got to continue in your religious practices. You've got to continue in even doing your own blessings of your home. Okay? This is not like a one, that's it, it's over. Oh, they came, they sprinkled holy water, it's gone, it's left. No, you cannot do that. And some people don't realize that once that happens, like, in other words, you do not go to paranormal stuff. You don't go to cemeteries, for the love of Mike. Please, please. All right. And you say, well, but whatever it was is gone. Yes, but what? In other words, you have this, how can I say, you always have this weak point. Okay. That's your Achilles heel when it comes to the darker side of the paranormal, which you are prohibited from then on of getting involved with anything. Well, when I mean go to cemeteries, I don't mean like if somebody dies in your family. Yes, of course. I'm talking about, oh, let's go legend tripping in the cemetery or some crap like that. Or, oh, we're going to go do EVPs in the cemetery. What are you thinking of? No. This is it. This is no more. Ouija boards, let's not even go there. Okay? Even if you're going to watch somebody, no. This is, you cannot dabble. Nothing, no more. Absolutely nothing. And some people find that hard to think that once they've gone through this process, that you would think, what? I would never take a chance of it happening again or opening that door again. It'd be like, no, never again. Yeah, my curiosity might be piqued, but guess what? I already had a bad experience. I'm never going to allow that to happen. Okay, because I know that I have that weakness, that point. And when I say that person, it could be the whole family in and of itself. If they were affected by it, even if there was one target person in there, the whole family's got to be like, no, we're not getting involved in any type of occult or dark or scary or paranormal or whatever. No. Nope. Because, how's this? They never forget about you. And I'm saying they, because it's a collective they on the other side that's dark. They never forget about you. And people say, wow, Marlene, you're being so fatalistic. I'm not. It's just the way it is. No. So, I mean, hopefully I'll be able to bring Keith back. I gotta get a hold of him and let him know he can get in touch with me. And I hope you like this show. I've got a lot of great guests coming on. Please go to miamighostchronicles.com or mppellicer.com. There you can sign up for my newsletter on Substack. You can also find Nightshade Diary and Supernatural Storytime, which are the different podcast series that I have. You can find me on Spreaker, on all the different podcast platforms. And on also, besides YouTube, you can find me also on all the different, you can find me on BitChute, on Rumble, CloutHub. I do the video version of everything there also as well. And yeah, it's a very interesting world out there, isn't it? Very interesting. Yep. And you should, if anything, this interview should prove it. So again, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I look forward to our next meeting. And remember, you are all wonderful. Till next time.